Hello, good morning, everyone. Also, good afternoon and good evening, wherever you're joining in from. Welcome to our special edition, Women in Tech. And also a very, very warm welcome to everyone who is joining us for the first time. Hope there are not that many people who are joining for the first time. Good. So this special episode of WeAreDevelopers Live is all about inclusion, diversity, and equity. So it doesn't matter your gender, your sexual orientation, ethnic or financial background. Everyone with passion for software technology, coding, sharing knowledge is welcome. I'll take the next couple of minutes to introduce you to what we have prepared for you. So we have some amazing speakers. They will be talking about how diversity and Agile are connected, what makes a great software developer. You will hear some tips for accelerating your career growth, and we will also learn about top sharing. What is it and how to make the most out of it. Before we start, a couple of announcements that I would like to make. So please log into Swapcard to engage and ask your questions. This is the platform that we are using this time. I will make sure that at the end we answer most of your questions. How you can do this, just go on wearedevelopers.com, find the event Women in Tech and log in. There is a live interaction button that you can use. And for our registered users, you will find in your email a magic link and you can log in via this magic link. Another important announcement is that we raffle out 2 tickets for the Power of Female Art Festival in March, 8th to 10th March in Berlin. If you want to join, go to wearedevelopers.com, scroll down, join the raffle. Winners will be announced at the end. Before we start, also, I'd like to remind you, as always, respect, be nice with each other when you interact in the channel, but also be mindful of using inclusive language. And we will play now a video for our code of conduct so that you can be more familiar with it. We should now get going. We don't waste time on it. And I would like to welcome our first guest, Evelyn.
Thanks a lot. Hello also back to all of who is joining, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of this today. I'm going to start my presentation. I hope you can all see it.
Evelyn, before we start, I would just want to say a few words about you so that our audience can know you better. Evelyn studied biomedical informatics and she works as a software engineer for many years. She is also fascinated about questions such as how to create work environment that accommodates everyone, what motivates people, how to empower individuals. And yeah, maybe you can, just before you start sharing, you can tell us real quick, what are we going to learn from you today?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's also great this way. It would have been a little part of my presentation, but I can also start with it right away. Today we're going to talk about, or I'm going to share my experiences about Agile software development and how diversity is actually not only something you need to tolerate or to deal with, but rather appreciated in this whole concept. So it's all about celebration of differences. It's all about finding individual ways to approach problems and also to face challenges together in a team, in a quite different team. We are going to hear a little bit about the Agile mindset, so what it's all about, how the whole methods and ideas behind it are, as well as a little bit of motivational and happiness theory. And afterwards, I will go to show a little section about women and how actually women can also be a central part and real benefit for Agile development. I
Okay,
am, of
so
course.
you got our attention, Evelyn. The stage is yours. Whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and we will meet at the end for the Q&A. I would
Yeah.
also like to remind one more time to our audience, go to Swapcard, ask your questions, comment, cheer our presenters, and enjoy the series.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I already kind of scratched the surface with my little introduction. Yeah, what I want to mention once more is today this is about agile software development. It is about my experiences and my views, and I really invite you to get out of this talk whatever you want to. So I totally understand sometimes that there are studies or theories you can more agree with or more identify with, and ones that might not be for you. So don't hesitate. Also, feel free to contact me every time. Also to get back to me, to provide me some feedback. Would be really happy about that. And nevertheless, just enjoy and let's dive into. Yeah. Let's start with the sender, which is actually me. I'm Evelyn Forstner. I'm a Scrum Master at MIC, which means managing international customs and trade compliance. And what is actually one of the most important things about me, I really like my job, actually. So I really like to work with people. I like the feeling of overcoming challenges and really connecting people, interact with them. I also like to think about problems that don't have an obvious solution. So that's maybe also a technical view on all the situation, which also brings me back to where I actually started my career. So I studied biomedical informatics at the University of Applied Sciences in Hagenberg. And yeah, I worked quite a lot and quite for some time as a software developer, and I really liked it. I liked the idea of everything being possible, everything being doable, and soon experienced some limitations. And those limitations were actually, at least for us, most of the time organizational ones. So we often try to do our best, but somehow due to conflicts, due to not exactly knowing what somebody wants or somebody needs, we actually get stuck on the way sometimes. And yeah, that's actually the reason why I shifted also my view and shifted my purpose or the things I wanted to do, because I thought that taking action in those parts and helping with those problems actually gives me more opportunity to make a change. And yeah, I, at least for now, I was right. And I feel way more able to help and to do stuff and to make the days and the life of people around me really better. Yeah, I also added some nice to know facts, especially that I like cats. I think that shouldn't be missed at any part. Where do I work? I work at MIC, which is the abbreviation for Managing International Customs and Trade Compliances. It's a software company, and we try to enable companies to manage actually their customs and trade compliance business processes as efficient as possible. This means most of the time saving costs, as well as keeping track of legal requirements, for example. We have huge business processes. So we have really complex processes with lots of know-how in the background. And I have many awesome colleagues who really know what the whole thing is all about. For me, I don't have to go that deep in those processes, but rather can be on the surface and focus on how people work together. Nevertheless, what's quite important for the whole working situation and also quite essential for my job is that we are company-wide, actually widespread around the world. So we have many offices in different countries. Most of them are actually support offices. But it doesn't hinder you, or it doesn't make it or it makes it necessary actually to connect people with different cultural views, with different living situations, or with different opinions. And this makes actually a quite good set of values necessary in order to foster such problem-solving techniques or possibilities. For me, it makes it to a quite exciting working place. So many different things to cope with, many different people and ideas to take care of, but also a really nice world where you have the possibility to get many individuals at one place and really find solutions together that maybe nobody even thought of. Another great benefit of the situation in our company is that due to the diversity in our company, we actually also have the possibility to really know our customers. I don't know if you have already experienced it, but sometimes it's just the case that you don't really understand what it's needed. And most of the times the complexer problems get, the more is put into it, the more difficult it actually gets. And with the ability to have various people in one setting or in one company, you widen or you make it possible to really get many inputs and really feel what the customer needs and the customer wants. Nevertheless, it's not an easy task, so there are lots of possibilities. You have to also give them the structure, you have to live values in order to give it a guided shape. So at least that's for me some kind of what the Agile mindset is also about. So you try to define a rule set for your company, you define a rule set for people in the company in order to make it possible that that many different values and views can coexist in a respectful and appreciating way. Before we go deep into the topic of HR mindset, I would like to quickly overwhelm you with a question, and that's actually what makes you happy. I do this because for me, most of the time, when it comes to problems and when it comes to working together, it actually starts with that question. So what is a surrounding, what is a workplace where I really feel comfortable? Where can I develop my full potential? Where do I get the chances I want to take, or don't I want to take chances at all? Do I want to be myself and just live however I want to be? Those are essential questions we just need to ask yourselves once in a while in order to keep us guided in life, or at least for me, it's this way to keep us guided in life, to know where we want to go. And it's actually also deeply connected to what my surrounding gives me in case of possibilities, for example. So for me, it was kind of a process, I have to admit. So for most of the times I didn't know what I wanted to do, or I even didn't know, I don't know what what all was about. But focusing on that and really being honest to oneself gives you the opportunity to really decide. And I think that's a good way to start. So making yourself obvious and grabbable, that you are able to decide. So you're able to decide in which setup you get, which rules you accept, how you want to work together, or whatever fits for you. And agility, agile software development is just one way actually to do things. For me, it's an awesome way, and that's the reason why I'm talking about it, but it doesn't have to be. If you get out of it that you just know what it's all about, it's also fine. Yeah, maybe even after the talk, you can, I don't know, brainstorm a little bit, and yeah, maybe even let me know. I'm always curious about the individual answers. But what is it now, the Agile mindset? First of all, a mindset in general is a way of thinking, an attitude, or a philosophy of life. It can be seen as a person's or company's perspective of the world. Yeah, this makes a company actually to kind of a planet with some rule sets, some directions to follow, and it really affects also the employees in the company. When you now decide for yourself or at all to be agile, it basically means that you want to be flexible and adaptable. That's the reason why it's agile. You want to actually react quickly to changes. You want to accept changes, and you also want to face challenges constantly, and really also appreciate feedback in this regard. It also means, in a second step, that you also want to become better in whatever changes, whatever challenges you have to face. So there's also this need to really continuously learn and continuously adapt, because not only you change, but also your surroundings. At first, this could be, or this could feel a little bit scary maybe, since there's a lot of change and what is sure, or what can I really trust. But with a good rule set, with a good set of value, you can actually see it as a real nice way to grow, rather than being overwhelmed by everything. The rules or the keywords you can see on the slide are quite essential for an agile mindset. So there are basic points that need to be considered and also be lived in a truly agile organization. Agility is a lot about communication. I mentioned before that it's about fostering a good feedback culture, so that everybody actually chips in, wants to work together, gives feedback and receives feedback. So it's or should be a quite open way of communicating. Even if you need help, it should be actually obvious and really a good way to just communicate, to bring it on the table and find solutions for it together. And you actually feel it. So MIC is not the first company where I'm in. I was already in another company as a Scrum Master, and there you just felt that the feedback culture, or the way how people felt when they addressed errors or mistakes, just didn't feel okay. And yeah, that's one symptom of the problem, which we really try to avoid by living agility. So we really try to make it a good working atmosphere. Continuously learning, I already mentioned that. Added to this and to this whole process, it's also quite essential for agility to also give clear goals. So you have actually quite free teams that work by themselves, that try to figure out stuff by themselves, and what can keep them guided and can keep them focused is actually the definition, and even the definition together in the team or through a customer or so, of goals and where a product is headed. You have this intrinsic view and this intrinsic need to really also get into it and fill the whole process with a purpose. And it's sometimes quite simple. Sometimes you get this purpose out of the fact that you constantly communicate to the customer, so that you can actually really see if what you're doing is actually also used and really helpful. Or you can also get this purpose by widening the view on software development or on your quality standards or whatever you feel important in this regard. So it's also, again, quite flexible. It has to come by working together and evaluating what is actually best. In the next slide, we are going to once more go into detail onto the 4 really big and key factors when it comes to an agile mindset, as well as which consequences come from that. The first one is the growth mindset. We already had it on the other page, but now for a detailed explanation. Growth mindset means actually that that you're convinced that you've never learned enough. So the sky's the limit. You are always able to become better. You have always the view that that you don't know everything and that situations can change. And actually, this is affecting people a lot. As far as I saw it in my workplace, having somebody realize that there's no stop and that you always have the ability to become better really opens them up, because this means you're not stuck with anything. So it's maybe not the right challenge for the right moment, but it may be tomorrow or in 3 days. As long as you are willing and have the possibility to grow, everything is actually fine. So it's the process, and if you want to accept it and really work on it, it's an awesome opportunity, actually. The next one would be self-realization, and self-realization plays into this intrinsic approach. So as a Scrum Master or as a company, I really want to trust my employees. So they have this motivation to really do their best. They want to do a good job, and they want to actually get the best out of a task, make it as best as possible. So this culture of trust and really helping each other. The third one is the customer-centric thinking, which I also like a lot, since I already really saw some awesome changes in this regard. I don't know if you ever felt the way that you just got the feeling that a specific task doesn't make sense. For me, it was sometimes in my studies, actually. So we had some really strange homeworks to do. So I hope my professor, but yeah, and adapted them someday. but sometimes you just work on something and you don't really see what this is all about. And that's actually what we want to avoid, yeah? And tasks wouldn't just make sense if you don't see a sense in it. It would make everything a little bit weird, and you would wish that somebody just stands up and asks about it, asks about the purpose of something and why we are doing it. And that's the thing. So being really critical, also critical with the customer. We already know they sometimes just don't know what they're wanting. And the last one would be the purpose. So giving goals, setting aims, really driving the team to achieve something. So it's really their baby. It's their thing they want to foster. It's their responsibility, and this responsibility actually goes even beyond, I don't know, earning money, but rather about really building something awesome that is hopefully used for a lot of time and with a happy face. Yeah. The 4 values, or especially these 4 key values, lead us to the result that actually employees are more enabled. So we want that employees are not stuck or in shock if any challenge come up, but we want really them to have the trust in themselves and also into the company, that we are working together and trying to do the best out of it, grow from it. And the second one would be that companies with an agile mindset are way more flexible and innovative. So you really open up the possibility that employees can do where they're passionate about. So what they really put effort in, and this leads to so many awesome ideas, actually, to so many good inventions, because you actually leave the space for it and give them the opportunity to really shine. So having also in mind that people want to shine and also want to participate. So why all these values and all these rules? And how does it somehow connect together? Especially with the happiness question in the beginning. So I think, and it's also kind of a personal opinion, that you have to find, of course, your guidelines in your life. You have to decide in which surroundings you want to work, with which people you want to work, which people are good for you, which ones are bad. But for me, agility really opens up a lot of possibilities to get motivated and to become happy, actually. So for me, agility offered a spot for many people. And I really felt that that those principles, which maybe seem a little bit strict in the beginning or too much or whatever, but really opened up the possibilities and really gave a good structure to work in a really awesome way together. There are some theories about motivation that actually connects to it. What I wanted to mention, so to also give some background to it. Nevertheless, it's always room for interpretation. So as mentioned before, take out of it what you think fits for you or what speaks to you, and the other things, maybe even go to other sources and try to figure out by yourself. I wanted to start with the Maslow's pyramid because I think it's already well known. So as far as you know, Maslow divided the human needs actually in layers. and you actually have to meet or to satisfy the lowest layer first in order to be able to also satisfy the other layers. So they're actually built upon each other. And what Maslow actually criticized back in his times was that companies and especially managers try to motivate their employees only with the second two layers. So the physiological and safety needs, which is the bare basic actually. And he also mentioned that they would do a way better job if they would also affect or treat the other needs. So give them something to get out of that. This is actually what's often done in agility or in those agile frameworks. Due to the team structure, which is quite self-organizing and self-managing. So as I mentioned before, you give the responsibility to the team, you give a purpose, but leave it with them and trust them. You can actually trigger and give them a feeling of belongingness. So they really build a team culture by themselves. They have to tackle the problems together. They have to find solutions together, and this really plays into that. The second thing where it comes in place is that due to the cross-functionality, you have the ability to shine. So I don't know if you know it, but usually you say you want to have a skill set in the T form. So you want to be specialized in one or two skills and also have a broad knowledge about some skills. And you can really make a difference. So you can really develop your personal potential and your personal talents quite well in HR teams. So there is a place where there's also the need to become better and so on and so forth. And the last one, where agility can really motivate people is this sense of goals, this seeing what the customer really wants and how it actually fits for him or her, and how you can really support somebody, which means or is in the pyramid, the self-actualization part on the high top. Besides that, there are many other theories, and there was also the theory that built actually upon Maslow's pyramid. I don't want to go into detail, but I'm really passionate about this topic. So if you have questions or so on, please don't hesitate to also get back to it, or let's discuss. But another motivation theory I wanted to mention, since it's also like real fitting for the whole agile setup, is motivation theory by Daniel Pink. And he said actually two things. The first thing is the real motivators are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And the second one I didn't put on the slide is that because it might be a little bit not so good, but he said that larger rewards lead to poorer performance actually. So if you get paid more, it might be that you're not that motivated. It's based on some studies. It might differ also. I mean, they also found out that with simple tasks, it's actually not the case. But I think it's rather interesting, although nobody would be, would say no to a raise of salary. It might be interesting how you might react to a raise. But coming back to the first one, it actually fits perfectly. You got the autonomy in agile teams when they are really self-managing. It's also something from the previous slide. So they're really empowered. You trust them. They can do what they want. They can fight for whatever they need to fight for. Mastery, they can really become pros in their product, in their specialization, in whatever they want to be, and purpose. So really achieving something. I had yesterday a go live with my team, and we really worked on this project for 1 year, and you really felt the purpose in the room when everybody was just happy that it went over quite well, and everything was nice and everybody was happy. So it was really a smooth go live, and you don't have always the chance, but especially with those situations, you really feel you're doing it because it makes sense, and you're really achieving something with it for yourself as well as for the customer. As in the introduction already mentioned, I also wanted to focus a little bit on female developers and the Agile mindset, not because I think that it's, I think for all the things I'm going to mention fit actually for everyone. So everybody can see himself or herself in those mindsets, in those rules, see themselves in it. I mean, if it speaks to you, if you think, yeah, that would be a real good thing for me. So that's what I think is a good setup for a company or a team or whatever. But I think that females often have some special needs, and maybe they, of course it's a spectrum, but the main part might refer to specific working situations that might just fit them better. And especially for those cases, there are various reasons why agility really opens up the possibilities. And I think it's good to know. It's not only good to know for females, but it's good to know for everybody, but especially also females. And if we have the opportunity today to kind of celebrate our awesomeness a little bit, I think it's also a nice fit to just also talk a little bit about it. To get it going, just a little recap on the question why diversity or females, males, whatever, in software development makes sense. It's the opportunities. So it's the ideas you get out of a team with many different people in it. You just spread the content you can get, actually. So everybody has different experiences in their private life, in their work environment. Everybody has different views on what's important, what's not important. And the essence or the essential thing out of it that actually connects everything is that, for example, for us, everybody actually should be able to use our software. We don't want to cut somebody out. We don't want to oversee something or forget about something or do some harm or whatever. We really want to support and be the best fit for everybody. And being diverse, accepting all kinds of people in a software development team just opens up so many possibilities and so many doors to really address them. Besides that, we are also confronted with a situation where there's really the demand for software developers, for awesome software developers. And it's also a question of possibilities. So how many people can we reach? How many people are able to work with us? I mean, with software development, it was not a huge case, but especially when the whole home office situation opened up, it gave a lot of opportunities, a lot of ways and possibilities to involve people, and that's actually awesome. So I think it's pretty clear that it totally makes sense and is really appreciable if more women, or if the team is as diverse as possible. Yeah, another thing I also wanted to scratch, at least on the surface, is what could be possible reasons why women don't prefer to write code. I mean, there are thousands of reasons, as well as there are thousands of reasons why somebody else doesn't want to be a software developer. I want to mention them because I got the feeling that that it might be misconcepted sometimes, or it might have changed. And that's the reason why I just want to just quickly get over them. So it's kind of the bubble in our graph where the people are widespread, but in the middle there is this bubble. And in general, women prefer collaborative jobs. Is also the case for me, is not the case for everybody I know or every woman I know, but I would say more communicative. I have more communicative women than men in my surroundings. It is also the case that maybe in previous time it was possible to do software development in isolation, but I think at least for now, how I experienced it, I mean, I think I didn't even experience it other. I'm a little bit, maybe I'm too young for that also, but software development is, in my opinion, especially with the agility background, a very communicative job. So you really have to be empathetic. You really have to get into the people, really ask questions, support them, and yeah, really want to get things working. So this might be really a factor that totally changed. Another factor why women might think IT won't be the best fit for it is actually flexibility. So flexibility is actually, or some studies say that flexibility is way more important for women than for men. I think that also changed. I think it's fading out or becoming equal, but also for that it's the case that it's something that can be covered by agility and is a total factor that we want to support. Personal flexibility, job flexibility, and so on. And the third one I wanted to mention is, and it's also based on everyone's personal experiences actually, that sometimes it might be that women were differently socialized than men. So we have this evolution behind us, and there were some behavioral changes that just changed recently. So it might be that that actually also already with some awareness on how you interact with both genders or all the genders, you might have the situation that they have some tendencies because of the socialization and families. Yeah, so this is the very last part, and it's also one of my favorite ones because it really sums up nicely why now females could be really touched by agile development, or even be better supported. And yeah, it's actually not only female, but also diversity that is essential. This is why this is the first reason, or the first huge advantage. you need this team with different backgrounds, different perspectives. You actually need role models in the team. So I think that, or for me, one really big thing in my career was the first time I met a software developer, a female software developer that was actually older than me. For me, it was a special thing. And up until that point, I actually underestimated the importance of role models. But role models give you actually a real good sense on how important it's actually that you see your future in a place. So just by seeing that somebody similar to you, or even not even somebody you can relate to, is also there. Yeah. I think we covered the diversity part and the different teams a lot. I think that's pretty clear for now. The self-directed performing teams is also quite essential, or a quite good fit for autonomous, independent individuals to find a good place, because what it means is actually that there is no micromanaging. There's nobody who tells you exactly what to do and what not to do, but it's rather about finding solutions together in the team. And this can be really exhausting sometimes, depends a little bit on the team and how the structure is, but it's definitely worth it, because if you find something together, it really, or it's more probable that it fits and it sticks, and it's really an achievement, or felt as an achievement. It also means that everybody chips in. So everybody does their part, everybody takes responsibility, everybody wants to help out with whatever task is actually the next. So there are no dedicated roles. There are specializations and people that are really, I don't know, have some expertise in some topics, but everybody works together to achieve something. Collective ownership might also be I don't know, might also lighten some structures up, or some strict hierarchical views, since it's the thing I already teased in the previous slide, that also less shiny roles, which are, at least in the past, were often taken over by women. For example, support rules, which is also a big topic for our company, are taken over by everybody. Since everybody chips in and everybody does everything, everybody also has to take into consideration those communicative jobs that were often actually taken over by women. And this collectiveness actually opens up a better view and actually, even establishes some gratefulness if somebody does the job. So it's a way away from seeing something not as important, but rather appreciating somebody who does the job. Another one which plays into the flexibility part, so is that with agility you try to develop software products with a sustainable pace. Actually, the best source code is written from a developer who is well rested and chilled and has time to think and estimate whatever he or she is programming. And it is often the case, and not that easy to avoid, that there are those fast implementations in the last seconds, but that's actually something you don't aim for. So actually we try to avoid it at all. And it fits better for everyone who really has a work-life balance in mind. So a working situation where he or she can really separate and align the work schedule with the private one better. So it's also better for the customer. So we found out that our customers are way more happy if we tell them something lasts longer, but they really get it instead of just telling them it comes in the last second or so. So trust is really something very, very special and important here. The last, or almost the last one, is craftsmanship. And craftsmanship is the thing that Agile software development teams really focus on giving goals. So many people are actually on the search for something valuable and something meaningful in their life, and having the ability to really see where it is going and having the possibility to also bring yourself into the product really fosters and supports this thought of purpose, and even being good for the team and good for the customer also satisfies this sense of social purpose. So doing something good for somebody else. What I mentioned before, what I really want to make the lives of the people around me better. And the last one I want to mention is a collaboration. I think it's rather obvious, but I also think it's quite essential, and maybe it's a little underestimated sometimes. But it's really about communicating. And it's not only about communicating, but also about understanding and really being a good and an essential part by fostering this culture, creating teams, being a good and reliable part in them. And being an active part in creating a wonderful working environment. So that's it actually also for the reasons why might be a better fit for one another to work with agile practices, not only at the workplace, but maybe also at home or in your private life. It can be done everywhere. I really, really thank you for your time and your attention. I also added the sources of my presentation to the last slide. I can also provide you with the information afterwards. Other than that, I want to say really, really thank you for this opportunity. And yeah, I'm happy to answer your questions if there are some.
Hey, Evelyn, thank you very much. I am really happy to hear, and I believe that a lot of people can relate to what you just said. And I'm very thankful that you shared your personal story. I would like to ask the first question and to focus on it actually. How happened that you ended up in software development? Who were your role model and who supported you in this journey? Because you mentioned a lot of things and it felt like women are not necessarily supported or encouraged towards software development as an industry or as a profession. So what happened to you?
Actually, what I actually have to admit, I think I was lucky. I didn't have that many role models, actually, in my family or so on, or in my friend zone. But I was situated in Upper Austria, and there is this University of Applied Sciences, and it has actually is recommended by quite some people. And I, for myself, was always kind of the person who also gives herself the possibility to also try things. And after deciding on where to go to university, I wanted to try actually software development, since it was actually a topic I didn't get in touch with. And I started biomedical informatics, and I have to admit, it was one of the I could have imagined it back then when I had the interview there by a professor, because he said, it's quite technical. And I was really like...
That is encouraging already. You won't make it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think he was, because they're always confronted with so many dropout rates, not only women, but all the students, and they really try to, what you're doing. So not in a mean way, and also not because I'm female or so, but really like they just want to make sure. And yeah, I'm a little bit stubborn sometimes, so I just want to try it. And it was really hard in the beginning. So at least for me, I have a real I really think it's awesome if somebody does a technical study, because I don't think it's easy. And at least for me, it was really hard work, and especially also getting the thinking, the technical thinking into my head was really a lot for me. But I got it, and I hopefully grew a little bit, maybe not. But in the end, it was a really good fit for me, and it opened my way of thinking a lot, actually. Yeah.
You talked a lot about Agile, and now remote is also something that is in the air, and all the companies are shifting between either remote or hybrid or on-site. So do you think we should keep the possibility of working remotely? How does it contribute to other aspects of the software development lifecycle?
Mm-hmm. I think it's not avoidable to actually keep working remotely. But it's also my personal view of, I really like to work in person, actually. So if you think back of when agility and the whole Scrum is an agile framework, but if you work with Scrum, it was often the case that in the first times there were really these physical boards in the offices, and the people didn't shift tickets from one column to another by a software or so.
We saw it on your presentation.
Yeah, they were real stickies. Yeah, and I really liked it. I really liked the feeling of everybody of the team being in one room and just talking and connecting and so on. But it has one big disadvantage: the availability, and it just makes it necessary that everybody is in one place. And I think I would rather accept the difficulty of it, of having more people working remotely and trying to connect them, than miss the opportunity actually to have more people and different people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's great. Thank you for the answers. We have 1 minute left, and I would like to just real quick ask you, what would be your advice for young people, women, maybe going into software development? What will help them based on your experience?
I would definitely encourage everybody to try things out. So there is nothing lost if you use time and effort to find out what you really want. So I would really encourage everybody, don't take everything too serious, leave some space, also try new stuff, and look over your borders or your limitations. And
okay. Don't over-engineer, go for it. Thank you, Evelyn. I'm delighted to have you as a guest. For our audience, just feel free to connect with Evelyn. Since she likes it, go find her on LinkedIn, ask questions. There are a few questions that have left, but Evelyn, maybe you will be able to get in touch with the people and to answer those. And we will also put them in swap cards so that probably you can answer your these questions there. Thank you, and have a lovely day. Stay with us if you want to hear the other speakers, and goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. So we bring the other speaker immediately because we are exactly on time, and I would like to ask Vincent to kind of bring Irina.
Hello.
Hi, Irina. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you going?
Oh, everything is fine. I'm very happy to have you. And you're dialing in from Munich, I guess, right?
That is right, yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I want to just present you a little bit. So Irina is senior software engineer and she works for Stadtwerke in Munich. She is a software engineer. She easily switches between backend, Android, iOS, but a good portion of her time is spent not on writing code, but on clarifying requirements with design and businesses and translating them into different technical concepts. She has a sense of humor. I don't know whether it's sense of humor though, or it's true. You will let us know. But every time she stumbles upon her old code, she thinks it's rubbish. So why this?
Why this? Because I think it's a thing that can make you insecure. I think if you see in university, you go in there and you kind of start programming and you see some other people, mainly the guys who've been playing video games for their entire lives, and they just hack something around and they don't have to look up any documentation. And then you might think, oh, I'm actually really crappy. And every time I look at my code, it proves it's crappy. I see it's crappy, what I wrote, I don't know, a year ago. So it proves that I'm actually a bad software engineer. But then, you need to flip the thinking in terms of, well, it shows that I've actually evolved. It shows that I'm becoming a better software engineer because I can recognize the own mistakes that I've actually made in the past. And I think that's why I'm fairly proud when I see bad code that I've made, because it means
I grew again.
There you
go. Okay, perfect. So you will be talking about becoming a better software developer, and this is in the context of the imposter syndrome. So why did you choose this topic for our audience before you start?
It's quite interesting, actually. I was asking my other colleagues, female colleagues, other women in our company around what topic they would like to hear. And one of them said, please don't bring up imposter syndrome. We've heard it so often. So the imposter syndrome part is actually a gateway to actually a different topic. I would like to stop thinking of imposter syndrome as something, that means that women have to address it. It's us that lacks self-confidence. It's us that need to improve our skills. I would like to flip it on its head and kind of say, well, what kind of skills are we actually valuing in software engineering? And why is it that skills that women kind of bring, a bit what we've heard also from Evelyn previously, communication skills, organizing skills, why are these not valued equally as the classical skills that we think of, such as writing efficient code? I mean, and good code, what does that even mean? What sort of skills do you need for that? And it might not just be like mathematical and algorithmic skills, but a set of other skills as well.
Okay, that's interesting, and I'm really curious to hear it. So the stage is yours, Irina. Whenever you are ready, you can go ahead and start talking to us.
Thanks very much, Anna. All right, I will share my screen. Hopefully I'm getting the right one. All right. Oh, okay. The usual problem of having to give out the rights to record. Hold on. Oh, okay. Anna, are you still here? I need to quickly restart Chrome because I haven't actually allowed it to record my screen to actually be sharing it. So I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay, good. So in the meantime, we will run a video, and whenever you're ready, you just let me know and you will be
Sounds good.
On stage
Sorry
again.
about that. I'll be here in a second. All right, here we go. We can actually see something. That's fantastic. Let's get going and see the right part of the screen. Here we go. All right, so I would like to, first of all, I'm a bit flustered now because of the usual tech problems that you always get. It's a classic Murphy thing. But yeah, thanks, Anna, for the introduction and the lovely chat. It's fantastic to be here today. I'm Marina, I'm a software engineer at Stadtwerke München. And to what kind of people usually think, we have an IT department and we build quite a lot of stuff in-house. I didn't know that either, in case you were wondering. I ended here through coincidence, but I think it's a really, really good place. And we really build important software that keep the city of Munich running. So today I'd like us to explore together what makes a good software engineer. We'll do this a bit interactively. First, I'll chat to you about a few things. And in the second half, we'll move to a Miro board to explore it together. So get ready to get a bit hands-on. I'll post a link to the Miro board in the chat once we enter that phase of the talk. And so at the end, we'll have a bit of a better idea of what us here as a group in this session think a good software engineer is. What sort of archetype of person is that? And you will be able to keep the link to the board and explore it as well in your own time. We'll send a bit of a wrap-up package after the session. So barely any conference on women in leadership or women in tech manages to not have it mentioned. Like I said in my introduction, imposter syndrome, the belief that you don't belong where you are, even though the evidence says you actually do. So who should do something about it? Well, you or me, or so we have been told. Speak up more in meetings, believe in yourself, build your confidence. Talk to people about your accomplishments. Don't just sit in the trenches and do the hard work. No one's going to see that. I'm sure many of you have heard this before, and the onus was on us as women and as individuals to do something about it. Let me tell you an anecdote. So 14 years ago, I applied for a role as a mobile developer at a startup. And during the technical interview, they asked me about a particular bug scenario. We chatted through it for quite a bit. We discussed potential causes. And all of a sudden, the guy interviewing me asks, "Do you know what dead beef is?" In case you wonder, it's a magic debug value in hex code that points to a memory problem. But I had no clue. And so the result of the interview was that I was told, "You're not technical enough." I mean, as we heard also from a previous speaker, and I would be really surprised if women in this audience would hear this for the first time or haven't heard it themselves before, or something similar. What I have been asking myself ever since, though, is why should knowing hex speak be something through which I demonstrate technical ability? Yes, of course, we can talk about the very real gender stereotypes against women and their technical abilities, but that's not my point today. Part of the stereotype of the socially awkward introvert writing code all day continues to persist. We may have somehow dialed the needle or moved the needle on to regarding the socially awkward part, but we still tend to think, perhaps subconsciously, and more than we'd like to admit, as a collective, that an obsession with coding and technology, day and night, in your free time, inside work, outside of work, is a prerequisite to be a good software engineer. Somehow managing to remember what to other people appears like obscure tech trivia, like dead beef, for example. If I, as a young woman thinking about which profession I want to go into, ask myself what it means to be technical, or what it takes to become a software engineer and succeed, well, then I will quite possibly compare myself to who society and past experiences have conditioned me to think of, this stereotype. And I may very well conclude, well, no, I am not like that. I don't want to necessarily write code all day in my free time, and I'm not obsessed with technology. I am not, or I could not be a good software engineer, might be the conclusion. So what does this have to do with imposter syndrome? The belief that you don't belong where you are. The psychologists who coined the term, Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes, attributed imposter syndrome, among other factors, to messages from society that women did not belong in powerful positions. They wrote about it in 1978. Comments such as, "You're not technical enough," send the message that you don't belong in software engineering. The obsession with coding and technology suggests that you have to be geeky or a nerd to be good. Feeling like you belong is much harder when you can't identify with that. But it's not just in your head, it's also in other people's heads. And that means not only will you compare yourself with that archetype, others will too, and they will judge you by your abilities. They will judge your abilities by how well you fit that mental model, that mold. And we don't do this necessarily consciously. It's not something malicious, but the image of the geek has an impact on our evaluation of others as good software engineers, what skills we value the most, and what behaviors are effective to demonstrate those skills. Sprinkle a bit of jargon and that beef knowledge here, enter a polemic, on lambdas versus closures there. Tell the story of how you found this super hectic bug in like these big libraries, and it messed up your project at work for months 5 years ago, or any other display of extremely keen interest in technology, and you are more likely to establish credibility. I have always struggled with these discussions. Almost always, I don't really enjoy engaging in these kinds of conversations because I personally don't derive any satisfaction from them. And frankly, I can't even remember the details that would allow me to do so. Just 2 months ago in January, I went on a holiday for 3 weeks. And when I returned and opened my computer, I tried to do something really basic. I tried to write a string template where the value of a variable is evaluated at runtime and concatenated into the string at runtime. And I spent a huge amount of time just staring blankly at my screen because I couldn't for the life of me remember the syntax of how to do something presumably so basic. I could remember that you need to use a $sign to insert that variable there. And so not being in the super fine details of these technical details, unless I currently really need them and actually actively use them, makes me forget most of it until I actually need them again. And so this used to very much, and sometimes still does, make me feel a bit like I'm the other in the room. And that quiet voice, at the back of my head that tells me, well, maybe I should be more interested in all this, but somehow it's just not what I focus on. Software engineering and programming, for that matter, is creative problem solving. Many software engineers agree on this, and even those that kind of fit that mold of the geek. And I'm here to tell you that geeky skills are not the only thing that make you a good problem solver or a good software engineer, for that matter. And we should tell the world together. Solving problems requires many skills, also those we classically associate with being geeky, but not only. We collectively tend to undervalue these other skills by having this very narrow focus on what makes a good software engineer. And we need to expand our thinking of primarily the geeky skills as valuable to valuing a whole range of other skills in equal measure, such as communication, collaboration, conceptualization, and planning skills. Why is this important? Why does it matter for us as people and for our industry? There are new technologies emerging all the time, and they could be leveraged in meaningful ways. But we know that there also is an already existing diversity deficit when it comes to passionate and technically skilled people to actually implement these transformations that the technology could bring. And there already are negative consequences of the resulting bias in our digital products. And not only does this narrow definition stop young women from pursuing a career in technology, since they may assess that they wouldn't fit there. They can't, identify with this archetype. They're not that kind of type. But it also drives women who are already in technical roles away. We hear a lot of women, who started as software engineers, and then around the 10-year mark, many of them actually have exited the field and are doing something else. And oftentimes it comes because women who are good in other roles and other skills are encouraged to take up design, people lead, or project management roles. And there's nothing wrong with these, but because they excel at these skills, people think, oh, that's not necessarily what a software engineer does. And so they encourage them, probably with good intentions, but unaware of the consequences for the software engineering field of what that does to the diversity in our teams. It's a huge loss because good software needs design, people, and planning skills, which are a more diverse cohort of software engineers would bring to the table if we valued these skills more. I went to software architecture training a while ago, and the phrase that really struck me or stuck with me from the trainer was, bad software is not a technical problem, it's a communication problem. And some of you in this room might already kind of be nodding your head vigorously. I know I was at the time, but if you aren't, let me explain what I mean. The way we tend to think it works in software engineering is that the business comes and says, oh, we need this new feature. And then the software engineer goes, okay, well, I've done something similar 5 years ago, and I know I could do this, by using option A or B. And so the other engineers on the team evaluate these options. They think about it together. And oftentimes engineers tend to have very strong opinions on what is the best. And so they say in unison, of course, we'll do option A and build it within a stateless architecture. That's state of the art. That's how you build technology these days. B is a very bad idea. Okay, well then, we selected our idea. Let's draw some diagrams of how it will work, have a good think about how we're going to implement it, and then roll up our sleeves and get coding. But this is not how it works in the real world. If you've been around for long enough, you might see things unfold that look a bit more like this. So the engineers, get to work. And then as they kind of start programming, they realize these requirements are the worst. They're missing half of the edge cases. And why can the business side just not write good user stories? That's not my job to write them. It's their job. And then as they keep progressing, they go like, we actually can't implement this. It doesn't fit with our stateless architecture. This is a bad feature idea. We shouldn't be building this. But then, begrudgingly, after back and forth, they end up building it. And it's like they treat it as a technical debt and are really frustrated with it. But, we got pressured by the business to build it. And then the business side comes and then goes, but this is not what I asked you to build. And why is this always so expensive? Also, how is it that we can never meet our deadlines? To which, the engineer might reply, well, it'll take as long as it will take. How did we end up like this? Well, perhaps a lack of those other skills in design, communication, and planning that I mentioned earlier have something to do with it. We are missing quite a few slices from this cake. Because creative problem solving in the real world implies a lot more than just finding the problem, thinking of a few ideas, evaluating them, and then just implementing. It goes more along the lines of, well, the business comes and says it wants this feature. And so as a software engineer, I need to be able to communicate and go and question, well, okay, so you say you want this, but is this really what you need? Why are you building this? What need are you trying to address? What is the problem? What are the problems that you have observed? And you often end up realizing that business sometimes might suggest a solution to a problem that is actually responding to the wrong problem. And they've already thought of a potential solution. And so if you mindlessly had gone and implemented what they thought was the problem, you wouldn't have ended up with the right solution. So it's really important to be having those communication skills to question, to evaluate, to gather all the information, and then kind of have a strong skill in problem definition. This, kind of really putting down the hard facts. The actual problem is this, and we need to build Y instead of X. Then we can move on to the idea finding. And here it's really important to defer judgment. If we as engineers tend to have a really strong idea, we should always use Kotlin because it's better than Java, or stateless architecture is much better. We should never build microservices. Monoliths are the worst. You might actually not build what is really needed, even though it's not the fanciest technical, state-of-the-art thing. Maybe it's actually what's needed. What if it's, a medical software where the most important thing is that any measurements from the patient go straight to the device so that they can be calculated and the doctor has the most up-to-date information in real time? Well, then probably doing an architecture where you kind of depend on, the network and the speed of communication is related to that is probably not the best idea. And the monolith is maybe ugly, but maybe it was a good idea after all. And so you've evaluated your idea and you selected it on a completely different set of information of what is actually needed. And then, we might we need to move to the implementation and planning part. We might be wondering, how can we actually get this done in time? Is there anything that can be delivered now in the first increment? There's an MVP, if you like, that would already help these patients and these doctors. That would already bring immediately value. Can we deliver it in increments, build it into blocks, and agree with a product owner of a timeline? And then obviously there's the part of getting acceptance. Does this solution actually work? Is it going to work for the doctors? Is it working for the business? Is it working for the patients? You need to get that buy-in so that you actually get to the right result. And only then you can actually move into let's do it phase. So, why are we missing these skills? What happened? A researcher working on innovation, creativity, and problem solving named Min Basseder can help us with this. According to his findings, people have distinct styles of how they prefer to gain knowledge and how they prefer to use that knowledge. So gaining knowledge is on a spectrum from gaining it by doing, through experiencing, on the vertical axis, all the way to thinking. It's in a continuum. So people who like to really ponder things and think about things first and only then jump into action and learn through that thinking process, as opposed to the ones who just go and trial and error. And the purpose for which people want to use their knowledge. Some people are really good at, the left-hand side, which is evaluation. So using the knowledge that they have gained to evaluate existing options that are already on the table. But others are much more into ideation. As they gain that knowledge, they come up with all kinds of new ideas of how the problem might be best solved. And if you combine these preferences, people tend to kind of find themselves in one of these 4 quadrants, sometimes closer to the middle, sometimes further away. The distance to the center kind of describes how strongly they prefer their style over other styles. So, you might be someone who prefers to learn by doing and use that knowledge to evaluate how to proceed next from the given options. And you're quite close to the center. That means you don't mind too much if, rather than going ahead and doing something and trying something, we spend a bit more time thinking about it a bit more and decide later. But you might also find yourself, at the bottom right of the quadrant, who really needs to think through stuff for a really long time to really realize, actually, hey, we need a completely different option. And then you struggle to start working on anything before you're not 100% sure that you are working on the right thing with the right idea of how to address it. Well, each of these profiles kind of depicts an archetype, according to Basseder. So generators in the top right quadrant are initiators of questions and challenges. They are, comfortable with ambiguity and change. They like to get things started and are focused on seeing the big picture. Conceptualizers, bottom right quadrant, are idea developers and patient thinkers. So they like to put pieces together to form the big picture and develop a really thorough understanding before even getting to the acting part. Optimizers on the bottom left quadrant like turning abstract ideas into practical solutions. They struggle with ambiguity, they like single correct answers to problems, and are very detail-oriented. And finally, you have implementers on the top left quadrant. And they like to make plans work in the real world, not just in theory. They like to gain the acceptance of others for changes, and they will try a whole range of options until they find the one that actually really works and really sticks. So you might be wondering, where in this spectrum do software engineers fit? Maybe you already have a hunch. Optimizers. Optimizers prefer to think in order to gain knowledge. And they prefer to use knowledge to evaluate existing options. If you tend to identify with this, that's great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying we need you. But we also need the others. So we need to kind of expand the quadrants that we think of when we think of software engineers, rather than tending to often think as optimizers. Basseder actually has, in his portfolio, he kind of describes the most frequent professions of the people in the different quadrants. And software engineers are often optimizers most frequently. Now you might wonder where I am. Where is Irina in this diagram? Well, this is me. I'm a generator, and it probably by now it's not too hard to see how adding a lone generator into a team of optimizers can lead to frustration, underappreciation, and a sense of not belonging. As a generator, I may look at optimizers and think they are too narrow-minded, too focused on details, such as making an algorithm super efficient but missing the big picture. You may have the right answer, I might think, but to the wrong problem. Your algorithm might render items super efficiently on the map, but the difference is so small that physiologically the user can't even perceive it. What a waste of time, I might think. The optimizers in turn might think about me, wow, she really just can't focus on the real problem here. You just can't pin her down because instead of actually being thorough with all the details, she just jumps to the next problem. Or there may even be issues in terms of working styles. When as someone who learns through experience, when the team that I'm working in currently was newly formed, I was really struggling with what I perceived as endless and not really valuable discussions of how to build something, drawing diagrams, discussing in theory how we'd modularize things, how we'd implement it, how the algorithms would work. And all I kept thinking is how can we know if this is actually going to work if we don't check whether the assumptions we're making about the state of the system, the structure, the module in the system, and how things work, the frameworks that we're using are working. How can we know that this is actually going to work, what we're diagramming here in theory? When I code, I tend to start with some vague initial thought, like a Geistesblitz, of how I might approach it. And then as I kind of get into the meat of things, I start doing, and like in an iterative kind of way, as I make progress, I start making changes and new information kind of evolves, and I see what works and what doesn't, and I kind of change and adapt my approach. And to me, that seems like really reasonable because it's very practical, right? But to others, they might think that I'm working like a total dilettante because I start doing anything before I really have thought it through. Maybe she's not technical enough. You need to think things through thoroughly before you start coding and focus on the details. That's what a good software engineer does, right? Well, it does not, the way I kind of approach it possibly doesn't really fit the behavioral mold of the optimizer. But the reality is that in the end, we actually found a solution that combines the best of both worlds. So we now have an approach where we just start by building like a small proof of concept. We kind of, the person who's leading the refactoring, for instance, has like a bit of an idea of what they want to do. They do like a small POC. And then we gather the team and we discuss the approach with the really hands-on knowledge of how we can, and an idea of this initial person of how we can actually take this initial concept to a fully fledged solution, or whether we might even adopt something else because this is not really working. So that means we combine our strengths and get the best results. We work on the right problem with a well thought through solution that actually works. So what I'm trying to really say is that we are missing out if we judge and evaluate technical ability only through the lens of optimizers and displays of competence, typical for this problem-solving style. We're missing out on what makes a software engineering team really successful, which is along the lines of also what we heard from Evelyn previously in an Agile team, where you might not have, like in Waterfall, have like a whole manual of specifications, and all you have to do is, there's typically a ticket and you go and implement them. And then we know that Waterfall doesn't always necessarily work as well, because as we implement, we realize that there's something missing in the requirements, which would again require communication skills. And so it's equally important to value diversity of problem-solving approaches to actually be successful. We need to value the skills of generators, of conceptualizers, and implementers, and we need to challenge the assumptions that being technical does not manifest within these problem-solving styles or through the display of other kinds of behaviors, such as being able to explain something highly technical to a business stakeholder so that they actually understand it without any jargon, or being good at generating new ideas of how to implement something, even though it might not be something that's a proven and tested way of doing it. Or even if later realized maybe that did kind of exist, but it's not quite similar. So in one of my technical interviews, a more recent one, I got asked about ways to implement APIs. And kind of after listing, the obvious candidates, such as using REST, and just keep being pressed further for any more ideas, I kind of started to just think and go like, well, what about some sort of dynamic API where, the server only sends the data that the actual client has requested? And there I was, I spontaneously invented GraphQL, which without even knowing it existed. I mean, how can that not be technical, right? And then this could have ended in a very similar way to the whole that beef story. They could have said, she should have known about GraphQL. She's just not technical enough. She's not up to date with stuff. But it didn't. And here I am, working as a senior software engineer at Stadtwerke München. And so I'm sure you are curious to find out which typology you are and have a think about also what is everyone else. I always find it really quite interesting. And I think it also feeds into this whole idea of like role models. What styles do other people have when they approach problem solving? What kind of thinking did they use? Where are they on these? We could use any sort of format. I'd use this one because I think it's quite useful as an illustration. But when we start realizing that what happens in the real world and how people really think does not always overlap with what the stereotype is, I think that's when we start changing the stereotype to something much more inclusive and much broader. So this is the part where we're actually going to go into the Miro board and work together on trying to explore this a little bit. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste this link, which I hope works and everyone can access it. I'm going to put it into the chat and you should all be able to access it. I'll have a bit of a wait. So you should see something like this when you open it because you're not logged in. Here we go, looks like that. And we're going to meet here on the very left working sheet, I guess, on the first one. Visiting sculptor, very good. I like that. We've got a Mironeer. I don't even know what that is, but that's really interesting. Just waiting for a few more people to join us. All right, Mironeer and visiting sculptor, more to the left. You can see where you're at here if you follow me. Visiting builder, very good. And the first exercise as you join us is really just a quick warm-up. So as people are kind of rolling in, you might not have used Miro before. So we'll just do like a super quick warm-up exercise. The first one is quite simple. So you just need to grab or copy a dot here from the left and move it around to somewhere else. So with this little arrow tool here, you can select something and you can either just drag it like that, or you can use Control-C or Command-C and copy it and then just duplicate it and move it around. Oh yeah, we have a few more hands. If you have any issues or questions, you're welcome to just write into the chat here in the swap card channel so that I get a sense of whether you're struggling or not and can assist. Oh, we've got a few people here. Very good. I like that. Oh, people are getting really creative here. Oh, lots of dots are being copied. Very good. I like the learning curve. Excellent. Can be quite tricky. You need to really click here in the middle and make sure that you've got the right tool to use it. And then move it around. Oh, we're getting some really interesting results here. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm really stoked. We're quite a big group now. So once you've mastered the dot exercise, we're moving on to a slightly more advanced one, which is adding stuff to a sticky note. So you would just do the same thing, drag the sticky note or copy it and put it over here. And I would like you to just fill in your official role description. So my role description is a senior software engineer. So I will write that down. Hello back. Fantastic. All right, looking good. I see lots of little arrows moving. Excellent. I've got some artists here. Oh, that's interesting. Very unusual, but exciting. I like that. Engineering people lead, Scrum Master, Group Manager for Software Engineering Development, Software Engineer, Junior Software Developer. All right, we're still getting a few more. Senior Software Engineer, more software developers. Very good. Just wait for another few seconds until we get a few more items here on the board. Oh, I might need to lock this. Hold on, guys. I think I see what the problem is. I've got to lock that one so it doesn't move around. Here we go. Now we shouldn't have issues with the background. Guys and gals, there you go. Always need to keep ourselves in check. What language we're using? Solution architect, quality code engineer. What else? Exciting. Okay, that is really fantastic. We have a quite nice spread actually of different types of roles in tech, which I really like. And I think also we do have quite a few software engineers as well. So which is the field sort of that I'm also kind of trying to look at quite strongly. So I think that's a really nice distribution. And now, if I'm going too fast, please just try to write in the chat. I'm trying to make sure that everyone's really up to the first level of skills, but I see that some people have already moved on to this next one. Interesting. All right, so in the second exercise, I have drawn these the quadrants, and I've added a bit of information on each archetype: the generators, the conceptualizers, the optimizers, and the implementers. And the exercise would be quite similar to the warm-up exercise in the sense of taking one of these dots, and just from what I've told you so far, just your gut feeling. Don't overthink it. Just try to plot yourself, somewhere in these quadrants. Are you more of a doer and learning by doing, or are you more someone who kind of really thinks about stuff and contemplates before they act? Or are you much more likely to come up with all kinds of new ideas and struggle with evaluating things and bringing stuff to an end? You have seen my profile, so I'll plot myself, which is kind of maybe a bit around here. It'll be really interesting to see what sort of distribution of people we have. We have some quite, some people really see themselves very far on the end of the generator. That's interesting. Quite a few conceptualizers. Exciting. We've got one implementer, someone who's kind of in between conceptualizers and optimizers. Interesting. I'm getting a few more implementers now. It's very interesting. We have quite, I think, a really big number of people who see them fitting a lot into the conceptualizers phase. So just as a quick recap, maybe until everyone is done, the generators are the ones who like to get things started, get involved, gather information, ask questions. They like viewing things from different perspectives, the business side, the technical side, the user side. They prefer generating ideas. They are very comfortable with ambiguity and are probably the ones who are quite good at going back to design or business and ask them, well, do we really need this, or is this how we want to do it? The conceptualizers like defining problems, coming up with ideas to these specific problems, and they like to see the big picture. They form connections between things that might not always be obvious, and they don't like proceeding until situations are fully understood and problems are well defined. The optimizers turn abstract ideas into practical solutions. And I mean, it doesn't mean that you don't identify with either of these. You can identify with bits of all of these things, right? But the question is just, what is your preferred style? Where do you naturally tend to gravitate to when you are actually just learning something new? Optimizers like correct answers to problems, like single correct answers. They're really good at sorting through large amounts of data and pinpoint faults and good at evaluating things. But they have little patience for ambiguity. And then finally, we have the implementers who just enjoy getting things done. They like being involved in new experiences and are really good at adapting to different circumstances as things change and making things work and really stick. They prefer to try things out in the real world rather than mentally test them and just think that it hypothetically might work. And they don't need to understand how everything completely works actually to be able to take action. They enjoy taking quite a bit of risk. Most importantly, they're really willing to take as long as it needs and try as many approaches as required to make things really work and stick. So it's quite interesting. We have a quite strong, presence of conceptualizers here. We have some generators. We have probably the implementers are maybe second, I think, maybe then the generators. And we have quite a few people who have got one optimizer. I feel like some dots here are kind of still moving around. So you can take a bit more time if you're not quite sure. But again, don't overthink it. Just put it as kind of... I went, actually, as a good anecdote, I have started, which might help you to work it out. I started a pottery course a couple of weeks ago. And in the first lesson, it was like a throwing course. So you have to actually throw the clay on this turning table. And I went there with my husband. And we are actually quite different. We did this test as well. And, he was paying a lot of attention to the teacher. And then he's tried to follow literally every step of how she was doing things and was really quite fairly cautious and stuff. And I just went there, my clay was flying everywhere. She has this thing of kind of calling it the clay corpses, like when you just mess up the clay so badly that it cannot be used and it just needs to go into a big tub to be recycled. And that's how I kind of worked out, well, I have a strong tendency towards experiencing. I just need to try stuff out to make it work. But I also know for myself that I'm always someone who's really good at coming up with new ideas. And when I did my PhD, I was really great at coming up with all these thoughts and all these ideas, but bringing it to an end, was a real struggle and pushing through those 3-4 years. And that was actually a challenge that I set to myself because I felt like I'm not strong enough, in getting things done. So I know I have a natural tendency towards more like ideation. All right, I think we're pretty good with this one. And so we'll move on to this third part, where we're going to reflect a bit on, strengths and behaviors in the field of software engineering. So here, I'd like you to use the sticky notes provided on the left in the respective color code, if you like, to reflect on the 3 questions below. So the first one is, what motivates you to be in the software engineering field? And for me, this is quite clear, and it has always been like this. And it's something that I think can make perception in interviews that I can be perceived in interviews as less technical, because the reason why I really love being in the field is that I like to use technology as a tool. So that means, I'll just write it here. That means what I get excited about is really the impact that I can have through what I build. I don't particularly care about in what language we build it. I mean, I care in the sense that, once we've worked out what we want to build good software, we want to build reliable software, we want to build maintainable software. But I will not be the one who starts a polemic, just because I've done lots of Python and I really think it's amazing. I won't come and argue with you, no, I think we should really, really do Python. I think Kotlin is really bad. You might have used it in your organization for the last 5 years, but no, I don't think we should use that. For me, it's, horses for courses. I care much more about this impact that this new feature has, or, in the case of working for SVM and doing the MVGo app, which is the integrated mobility app of the city, I get really excited, about being a part of the change of the Mobilitätswende, as the Germans call it, like, moving people towards using more sustainable modes of transport, using technology to build a product that kind of shows people that there are sustainable alternatives that might actually even be cheaper or faster. So what does excite you in this field would be a really interesting thing. Because, if I go to an interview and people ask you, so what have you done in your past role? I will start talking about all these exciting things that I built with technology and what impact that they've had. And that's what makes me excited. And I will much less likely be someone who goes and says, oh, I used this really crazy protocol, MQTT, to send data between these two, the client and the server, in real time, both ways. And it was crazy. We were sending so much, volume of data, and we had so many users. It's probably something that, if you ask me, I will tell you if I remember from 5 years ago. But it's less likely that I will bring it up by myself in an interview. And that might be, a behavior that might make people perceive me as, less technical, as less interested in technology in the way we think of how an optimizer might be interested. The second question is, what are your strengths that lead to success in your team? But you have the impression, or it appears to you, that they are being undervalued in the software engineering field. So if I speak of myself here, it might actually be the ability to really see different perspectives and communicate in really plain language. In non-jargon language, I will call it. And what I mean by that is, to me, we found the right technology and the right tool if it allows us to build us what the business and the users need. So I tend to often look at the business perspective of things. Why are we building this? What I said earlier, right? Like, if the monolith is the right option to build it because we've really understood the business need, I will not insist, that we should make it a stateless microservice architecture because this is state of the art and it's modern and it's how it should be done. Like, I will evaluate things with the utmost priority to actually serve the business and build a feature the way it has to be. And if a feature doesn't fit into the architecture that we have thought of, then to me it means I interpret it as, well, it's the wrong architecture. We should actually change it. And even if it's ugly, if it works, it's more important because it generates value for the business that actually employs me. We've got a few interesting options here. That's really nice. I'll give a bit more time for people to fill in things, and then we can start reviewing together. In the meantime, I'll move on to the third question. And the third question is, what are styles and behaviors that you encounter in the software engineering field that you can't identify with, that you struggle with, and you think, well, I'm kind of different. That really doesn't work for me. And I mean, I have a lot of examples here, but one I could bring up is, interview situations where people ask you to write code on a whiteboard or, without an IDE. I have a little anecdote from university, which I've kind of also alluded to in the beginning. in my first year of university, I failed programming 1, which is like the basic introduction course to programming, like functional programming. And then the second semester was about object-oriented programming. And basically, the way it was being taught to us is, you have this file editor, just like a text editor, and you write your code in there. And then from the console, you write, a command line instruction to actually compile and run your Java code. And I just kept thinking, but I don't know, I was looking in books and stuff, and seeing all these other people who were kind of coming up with stuff, presumably. And I was like, how do they do this? Do they just know this all by heart? I can't remember this sort of stuff. Until, years later, I realized, there's JavaDoc. And basically everyone is actually going into these documents. And well, as long as you know what you're trying to do, I know there's a when statement or a switch statement, whichever it's called in whichever language that you're using. Well, I know how to find this abstract concept. And I know what the documentation is. And I don't actually really need to know the detailed name of this method or the function. I just need to know on a conceptual level that it exists. All right, that's really, really cool. We've got some really interesting contributions here. I'll just give you another few minutes to write a few items. I see that, everyone's pretty good done with the first column and the second column. So we'll just take a few more minutes to look at the third one. And then I will start, in the meantime, while you do that, I'll start clustering a bit and see what we have in these other bits. All right, I think there's a few more post-its coming here in the last column. I'll just take another couple of minutes. And I think that looks pretty good. Let's go have a look what everyone has written. I'm actually really genuinely curious about this. All right, so we had mine as a technology as a tool, but then I see quite a few things around, being creative and detail-driven at the same time. So actually, probably straddling these two levels of abstract and detail-oriented working, creating new things, tools, creating new things, designing solutions for real-life problems. See many different ways to solve a problem. I like that. The dopamine release when things finally work. Yes, perseverance, I think, and determination is a big thing. It's a big part of software engineering. Loving to design solutions, loving to design and finding them through analysis and design. Making ways to to address problems in a more comfortable and easy way. Making the world a better place by connecting people. Exponential possibilities. Oh, that sounds very like generator style. Novelty. Yes, I can relate to that. There's always change. There's always new technologies, and it's really important to be adaptable and be able to learn and adopt a new language because it's needed. Like if you look at mobile, where I'm currently working in, declarative UIs has become a huge thing. And if you've actually used Angular before, which has been around for quite a few years, many of the concepts are actually quite familiar to you, so this transitioning will be much easier. Creating something big with zeros and ones, nice. I like the scale of thinking. Creating things that improve experiences, that's actually also quite a few things that kind of resonate, and people have similar things, real-world problems. Learn new things, +1. Yes, I agree with that. I enjoy learning new things. Working in silence. Yes, sometimes we do need that. I think we need collaboration and communication just as much as actually quiet time to really, be in the moment and really kind of spend your time with the debugger and be really able to think through stuff while you're doing the action, while doing it, while programming, or thinking about stuff quietly beforehand. Both of these are valuable. Problem solving and data modeling. I really enjoy creating data models, and I really enjoy modularization. I was chatting to a work colleague not too long ago, a few weeks ago, and I said something along the lines of, when you modularize software, one of the biggest skills that you need is just clarity of thinking, in the sense of what the whole principle of what belongs together, what should be separated, that you can have a really clear vision in your mind around that and be really conceptual. Making something that's fun, yes, I think, also if you look at things like Agile and Scrum, I think it's a lot about actually having fun, appreciating each other's company, celebrating your successes when you win. It's not just about, sitting in front of your computer and writing code. Creating something. This is what attracted me in the first place in technology, that, you sit in front of a computer and then, within a few hours, you've actually built something, like something real, which is also what attracted me to mobile development in particular in the very beginning. I like to think about finding the best solution. Yes. I think it's really important to actually spend the time to really reflect on that and use the strengths of the different typologies and archetypes to actually ensure that. Okay, there's more people adding stuff. But let's see what we have in this second column. So strengths that seem to not be as valued. Thinking fast, the need to seeing the problem from the final point of view. Yep, I can really relate to that. I think sometimes, there's people who think in like A, B, C, D in sequences. I tend to think of, well, there's this one thought firing, and then I have like 50 billion other thoughts, and somehow everything is connected. So it might seem that I'm thinking in a less methodical and structured way, but it's just a different way of how my brain works. And to some people that can come across as too fast, and that it's not thorough, but it's just a different way of looking at things. And I can see, steps down the line where A, B, C, D might come as well, but it might take a different time to get there. But in the thoroughness of A, B, C, D, they might catch details that I have missed. Think UI through consistent and pretty. Yes, that's my pet peeve. And it's, again, just another thing of like being, some people are more skilled as backend engineers, some people are more skilled as front-end engineers. Both of these are valuable, even though, in the common discourse, we think of like the backend people as the serious people and the UI people as, the ones just dabbling around. But the reality is that building good UIs is actually quite complex. And really, there's a lot of state handling and a lot of like events flowing through the UI that you really need to understand to do it well. See perspectives and communicate in non-Django languages. What I think I added, analyzing and modeling, we've spoken about that, and abstract thinking. Too many different ideas. I'm not sure if that's meant to be as too many different ideas. When you have many, like kind of what I said earlier about having many ideas and people kind of struggle because you're not focused on maybe the problem. Yeah, empathy. Oh, I see lots of hearts and thumbs ups to that. Yeah, I think just seeing we actually had a retrospective just the other day. The mood in the team can fluctuate depending on different conditions. Sometimes people are super happy, sometimes people get a bit frustrated. And, it made a huge difference for us to just talk about how we felt in the moment, how our current, emotional situation and state was in the team, to build that sort of empathy and actually really improve the way we interacted and communicated with each other. So that's a super important part. Focusing on comfortable usability, yes, we spoke about that. Communication, yes, I think that's really highly undervalued. We tend to think of people, writing code is productive, you can measure it, you can see how many lines of code you've added, but communication is the part that ensures that we are building the right thing, that we've explored, all ideas before we actually jump to one that seems kind of all right, but maybe a better one would come down the line. Actually, being really genuinely listening when people are explaining, I would like to build it this way because I have concerns about something, instead of kind of being, obsessive about, well, no, but my idea is the best because I know this is right. Genuinely being curious and asking, but why do you have this concern? We have these discussions often in the team, and end up actually building the idea that we actually use in the end is a combination of maybe 3-4 ideas that different people brought up, and we would have never gotten to that, perfect or like optimal solution if we hadn't genuinely been curious why this person has reservations, but instead just kept kind of saying, no, I'm against your idea. I only see my perspective. I want to do it the way I want it. See repeating patterns. Yes, I think that's super important. And I think that's also like that kind of abstract thinking that is really required. People on a human level, we spoke about that. Inclusive culture. Absolutely agree. I think this is all about what this talk is about. Sensing team vibes, we spoke about that. Understand business and developers, absolutely, we spoke about that. Products and aspects, integrate different products and aspects into a holistic solution, absolutely, looking at things from different perspectives. Glue work, I like this. This is actually, when the previous speaker got asked, what is their role model? I was thinking of Tanya Riley, who actually wrote this glue work article, and whoever has not read it, I can really recommend it. I might find it and pop it in the chat. bringing the team together, seeing the big picture, which is very much, underestimated because lots of people tend to be really detail-oriented thinkers. Or we have to have like this method needs to have big O notation one, but we forget that actually maybe it's not needed and we're over-engineering. They to ask stupid questions. Yes, it can make you feel really uncomfortable, when people around you seem like really clear about have a really clear opinion, and you might be rebuffed for it. Visionary thinking. Yes. All right, the third column, and then we can leave a few minutes to maybe see if we can have some questions. Code and whiteboard live coding talks. Yeah. We have here like the ego aspect, the stubbornness with one point of view, the ego. We had someone who had written arrogance here. I don't know if it's here, the bro culture, being them better than anyone else. I think we spoke about this, right? About how maybe the optimizer, if this is who we are interacting with, they have it's just their style of working. They have very strong opinions, and it makes it hard when you are very different to that, because your opinion, because it's kind of structured in a different way or presented in a different way, might not be valued, and that leads us to not building the best solution. Actually, liking computers. Yeah, I haven't kept up with the latest stuff, the latest processors. I'm terrible with that. I used to kind of try when I was in university because I felt like that's what I needed to do, but no. Tech first mentality, I can really relate to that. We spoke about that. Try to remember the syntax of everything and be always up to date with the latest technologies. Unrelated tech facts, interesting. We spoke about that. Dogma, we spoke about that. I think we've got here some quite interesting things around, bro culture, male toxicity. I mean, I guess when I said, that many women, it's quite interesting, and there's a lot of stuff you can read and experiences of women, why they've left the industry. And it's one, because of the skills not being appreciated, but the other one is also just always having to prove yourself and being perceived as, you're only good once you've proven yourself. And there's always like small, micro interactions that kind of suggest that you might not actually belong there. And I think that's not, I don't want to generalize, and I want to say everyone is like this, but I think every senior woman who is a software engineer has had experiences that have been quite shocking, of being told that I have been told that I'm arrogant just because I actually have opinions and I voice them in meetings. So it can be quite a bit of a challenge. All right, well, I think this is super interesting. And, you are free to add to this board for as long as you like. You will be able to keep the link and open it and read it at your own leisure time when you like. And with that, I would like to thank you very much. Oh, there's an X here that shouldn't be there. For your participation in such huge numbers. I'm really stoked that you were so active on the Miro board, and I'd like to open up the floor for questions. Anna, if you're still here.
Amazing, Irina. I'm sitting here and I'm laughing with my colleague all the time. We really had great time, and we participated in your
awesome. Great to hear.
It's really amazing. You bring amazing energy, and I'm so sorry for our audience that there are only 2 minutes left, but still for Q&A, still connect with Irina whenever you have time on LinkedIn. Or I also want to invite you to our Congress in Berlin in July. I think you will be an amazing speaker, not only for women, but for men. We already heard who is your role model. I do believe that you are a role model for many women and men. I don't know whether you happen to know about it or not. But yeah, amazing. My takeaway, fix the bias, not the woman. And I love it. I love the context.
That's exactly it.
From talk. You were supposed to be here with your HR. I don't know what happened and whether you want to bring the HR, because I would have a question to her if she's here. If she's not, that's fine. Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay, great, Elizabeth. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
I just thought that it's going to be interesting for the audience to know, what are you doing in Stadtwerke Munich so that women are not only a number, but they're also belong to this organization, and we see like a great person joining us. So what is HR doing, or what is the company doing to ensure that women belong to this company?
Let me say that there are a lot of networking people. For example, that today is a Women Day, and we have a big week behind us, because there were a lot of lectures, a lot of speeches from women to everybody in our company. So we spent the whole week so that women could present themselves, could present their work in every space, what they're doing was very, very interesting. And so we have a lot of these networking communities in our company.
That's amazing. Thank you very much to both of you. I'm really happy if you stay with us. We still have a few more talks. You can participate. You can also ask questions. And thank you one more time for the amazing talk.
It has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for the invitation.
Thank you very much.
And we are good to immediately bring on stage our next speaker, like 12 o'clock. Hello. Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. I can hear you well. Do you hear me well also? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Very interesting, interactive talk so far. So
yeah. I mean, it is a very nice talk, and also the previous one. I mean, so far we talked about agility and diversity. We talked about imposter syndrome and the positive sides of like that it is not about it basically. And you also come up with a topic, but before you go with your topic, I just want to say that Stephanie is working for Bosch since 2015. She joined a junior rotation program for managers. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this program. What is it and how does it help young leaders grow faster? I mean, it's a fast track for young leaders, right? Or is it something else?
Yeah, it's a trainee program basically. And straight after university, I said to many HR managers actually that I would never do a trainee program, and then I ended up doing one because, to be honest, I'm usually not really the one person who is like exaggerating a lot, but we have really the best trainee program I've ever seen, at least. And so in that 2 years, my first 2 years at Bosch, I spent in various different areas, so all in the development areas, but also in let's say collaborative areas around it. Like I was in sales, I was in the central department, I was in India, where we had a lot of relationship with on the software development side. So I got the chance to, although there was this silver lining of software development in the automotive context for a specific area, for maybe also specific products, I got so many different aspects, and that was my first learning that this is so valuable, that because of this I can bring different views to the development. I think it matches perfectly what was said before, that different views make the whole topic or problem to solve better, to view it from different angles. And this was the whole first 2 years that I spent in Bosch, that what they were about.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's something that I also like, switching between different roles so that you can know the company and you can build on some skills that are not necessarily related with what you're going to do in your career, but they add on you as a person and as a professional. Absolutely. And you have studied engineering, physics, and microelectronics, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What made you choose this?
Well, I wanted to know things. I wanted
Simple, but really strong.
I didn't really know much about many technical professions, to be honest. Straight after high school, I didn't really know what Bau engineer, for instance, what that kind of job would be. So I didn't really know many things. But I was always interested in solving problems and developing some solutions, and to create models which define us then, or give us a guidance into how we can look into the world from a certain perspective, and out of this derive then solutions that we can actually bring to life. So this was fascinating me, and although I didn't really do much about it during my school years, I took a break afterwards, and then I thought about what I wanted to do, and then I sort of jumped into this technical field with not so much previous knowledge. So I also struggled at the first programming lesson, like Karina before. So I could really relate to this. But I kept learning, and I kept the interest grew over time.
Okay, and you're coming with a very interesting topic around top sharing. Can you introduce your topic for our audience? I mean, it's really something that not that many people have experienced so far. So I think it's going to be really interesting for all of us to know.
Yeah, that's also what would interest would be interesting for me to know also the questions, because I think it's something which might be difficult to imagine oneself with, that being a developer in a company and eventually take up more responsibility, but also talk this management talk and be able to suit into corporate structures, but still do what do you. So still keep your authenticity, keep yourself, but engage this into a successful career.
Okay, that would be.
So this is more or less what I want to talk about. I will talk about a lot of personal insights, so a lot of how it was for me or how it was for us in a job sharing model. So this will be very much related to how we did it. It's not universal, but it can give some insights on how to make a system work for you.
Okay, amazing. So the stage is yours whenever you're ready. You can share your presentation if you have a presentation, or just stay on the screen and start talking. And we are ready to hear your story.
I have a couple of slides, not too many. Yes, but I can relate to what was said before, that women are said to have more collaborative skills and so on, and this might enable them for management position, one would think. But yeah, as we look at the data, situation currently looks quite different. But I will come to that. So my name is Stephanie Kopka. As said before, I have a background in engineering, physics, and microelectronics, and I work now for almost 9 years for Robert Bosch. This is also just what I wanted to start with, to give you the background, to know in which setup we are talking about. So that's why I try to share now. I tried it before and it worked, so I hope I can do this now again. Yep, should be. I don't see it now, but yeah, okay. So it's there. This is just a short overview about the company. So invented for life. This is basically our slogan. This is what Bosch does. We have, you probably know Bosch, but you probably are not aware on how big the company is. We have more than 400,000 employees worldwide. So it's quite tough to say, okay, what is the one thing that unites us? And that's invented for life. In German, it's Technik fürs Leben. So all the products, all the solutions that we develop have one thing in common. They make every person's lives better, and are also sustainable for the environment. So that's what we understand with invented for life. And so I hope it works now. Yeah. And basically we have 4 different fields where Robert Bosch is working in. So by far the largest part is the mobility sector. I said it before, that's my area basically, but it's also a very huge one. We develop components, we develop whole powertrain systems, we develop basically almost every part in a vehicle. We have solutions for automated driving, for connectivity solutions, but not just cars, but also for different kind of vehicles. The e-bikes, but also fleet management, etc. So it's a very large sector. Probably not so much known as industrial technology. There's also energy and building technology, so heat pumps, boilers, etc. And the one thing you probably are most aware of are consumer goods, so power tools and home appliances. I'm working in Vienna, so that's why I brought here just one slide to show how we are set up in Austria. There are different locations, and we have more than 3,000 employees in Austria, most of them in Vienna, and we are quite big development site. So more than half of our employees are in R&D. So we contribute here a lot to the overall company. So that's just, let's say, the background. My topic today will be about job sharing. So as a very powerful tool to empower generally people, but especially parents or women, into taking up the next step and taking up a leadership position. because there might be some restrictions. We come to this, why there are not so many people, a lot of women, especially in leadership positions. But there is one tool that can help to make things work. Usually we talk in a team. So my tandem is Anna. Unfortunately, she's not here today, but I hope I can accommodate for this. And we developed a specific model for us. In Bosch, we call this top sharing. So having job sharing in a management position. So it's not a typo. We lead a group of software developers. I liked it like this before, different kind of software developers. We have mostly embedded softwares, but also cloud developers, architects, product owners, scrum masters. It's all there. And they're a very diverse team. And therefore, there's a lot to do. Always when you talk with individuals, with people, and especially if you have such a diverse team, there is a need to accommodate for as a leader. Yes, having that said, I want to give you really some personal insights. I will do this a bit later after we get more statistical overview. And then the main part I want to use to really talk with you, to get your questions. So please put along the questions then in the chat, because I think one thing that we should do more is talk about tools like this, opportunities like this, and see how we can make those tools or shape those tools in a way that it works for us, what we want to achieve. So first we have to target the question though, who are today's leaders in big companies or in general companies? How does this leader, do these leaders look like? I'm based in Vienna, so I brought here now the numbers for Austria, but it might be similar in the whole DACH region, at least. So we have 15.5% of all the employment positions are management positions, so are have specific management focus. And now knowing that the workforce is almost equally distributed between men and female. So for instance, in 2022, 47% of all the employees were women. Then it's not, and this is actually there, not just recently, but for quite a long time. Then it might seem a bit surprising, absurd, you name it, that 2/3 of the management positions are men. You had before, although women might have these good calibration skills or good communication skills, this is how it looks today. And it's even worse when we look in top management. You can see this on the in the graph on the right. That these are the numbers. I mean, unfortunately, this is German, but I think we can overcome this. It's about the 200 largest companies in Austria for over the last 10 years. And it's increasing, but very slowly. And we are now in the executive positions with 10.5% held by female leaders, and 25.5% are female in the board of directors. So still some way to go, and still not imbalanced with the overall distribution in the workforce. Maybe in comparison, when we look to Germany, it's similar, but their rise in female leaders is higher, since they put in 2016 a quota in for 30% for all the newly filled seats for all listed companies. And this actually works. So quotas work. They are now with 15.6% of executives and more than 30% in the board of directors. So hopefully this is kept going and increasing. One fun fact, or you might think not so fun fact, is that children boost male careers compared to other men. So fathers are more likely to get into management positions, whereas mothers are underrepresented. So also when compared to women, it's not likely that mothers would lead in a specific group or even in a top management position. So now when looking on the working hours, I want to bring this up because this is a topic that affects a quarter or more than a quarter of the workforce, and thereby especially women. The part-time share for women, at least in Austria, but I think it's similar in the DACH region, is more than 50% by now, and it's increasing. It's actually, although the absolute number is not so high for men, it's over the last 10 years, it's even more increasing. So we have now 40% more than 10 years ago. So also it's getting increasingly topic there. It affects a quarter of the workforce, or even more. And although there are multiple reasons for taking a part-time, the majority of the people decides to do this because they need to take care of either children or elderly. And although women now, when you look at an educational degree, they overtook men, but still, also when looking on this segment, the rate remains fairly stable. So, and it's even and since this topic is of importance or even increasing, companies in the future or even already now need to develop models to accommodate for that, so that they get the best talents. But now I don't want to enhance now really unrealistic expectation when it comes to management positions. There we are looking at a current rate of 10%. So that's not really a topic there. So in sum, a very large workforce group of people who work part-time, so more than a quarter than the overall workforce, and especially women, or especially mothers, one has to say, leadership positions remain very little accessible. And that's a topic. That's something we have to look into in order, if we want to use high potentials, and also engage them in leading us in the companies and designing future organizations. So how do we make it work? How does it actually work? How do people who work in this do it? How do they live it? We need to make leadership work in part-time in order to engage this workforce I was telling about, and especially for women who are highly qualified and still want to accommodate or need to accommodate for other responsibilities in their life. Might be a very specific situation for the DACH region, but it's a reality. So that's why I want to tell our story. So this is the story about Anna and Stephanie. Anna had, let's say, the classical chimney career, one would say. She studied mechanical engineering, but then grew into software development. She's a very, very good programmer. She started with the role of a functional designer, and then gradually took over the substitute team leads, then the team lead. And then she got her first baby. And while being on the parental leave, she got a call from the department head. Let's call him Peter. And Peter said Peter had actually a problem. He didn't really have many qualified people who could take this step or who wanted to take this step. So he asked Anna if she could imagine herself, when coming back, to take up this leadership position to deal with a group of 25 developers and various products that they need to develop and the respective stakeholders. Anna was intrigued. She really loved this opportunity, but she also had restrictions. She had a newborn baby. She actually comes from Spain, and the husband as well, so they didn't really have many family support in the region. And so she said, yes, but you cannot expect me to do full time. So they sat together, they designed the way how it might work, and she went for it, and it worked. But when asking her how it worked, she said there was so much stress because, okay, it was a new role, so she had to learn a lot. There are many people, so she had to engage her people skills quite actively every day. And there were limited hours. So at 3 p.m., she had to be at the kindergarten. So even when things sometimes they take longer, especially when talking to people who have specific needs, and then you have to say, okay, no, but I have to run. It's not such a comfortable situation. So she always had time for the urgent topics, like what was right now on the table, but never really from the topics, from the important topics, from the strategic topics, from the topics where to really think of what to do in the next couple of months or years and design respective solutions, or even for her personal development to get the right trainings to do her job as best as she can. But she thought, okay, it's the first year. I learned. That's probably because of this, and it will get better. It didn't. The pandemic came. She suddenly had a situation that really much looked like this, maybe except for the calculator. So one day and the other, work life and her personal responsibilities merged even more intensively. So she had to schedule who can work when with her husband. Kindergartens were closed. Everything had to be in a small home office, and still she had to be the one who guides the other people, who provides safety or security in an area where there was a lot of uncertainty. So again, some stress. And then she got pregnant with a second child. Again, with her sense of responsibility, a very, very high stress level, because she thought, okay, well, what would happen to the group? Can I really be away for such a long time? How would they react? What would they do? Can I name one as a substitute in between? Would that work out? And who? And nobody she really saw to accommodate for this. And then she talked to Peter. And Peter at the time, the department head, you remember, had a very exotic idea. He knew of another person, which was me, Stephanie. At the time, I was on my parental leave, but I wanted to come back, and I was also eager to go into this management line. So the first part was quite easy because he said, okay, yeah, well, one is away, one comes back, I make the best out of it. So we're very pragmatic. But he even thought, and this was the exotic part, of what would we do afterwards. Because Anna will not be away for a long time. She will be away for a couple of months, maybe a year. And he thought, okay, when you come back, Stephanie would probably also be there only for a couple of hours. Why not the two of you sit together and you make something out of this and make this work? At the time, we looked at him like he might be a bit crazy. Nonetheless, we liked the first part, so we went for it. I took over the group. I also had to ramp in, had to learn a lot, but eventually we made it work with the same stress level as Anna had before, and yeah, same as with me. That the urgent topics were there, but the one things that I really wanted to do, there were so many change things that we needed to do. I also wanted to foster more an agile mindset in the organization, etc. All these things were in my mind, but I never had the time for it. So there were always a lot of balls I had to juggle up in the air, and my calendar was just full. And then I knew Anna would come back. And my first reaction was, oh God, how do we make this work? And I really didn't want to do it. I really did. I thought, okay, this will be, and at first it would be just more stress for me because I have to organize now, maybe the next month. How do we sit together? How do we arrange things? How do we see ourselves? How do we plan everything out? And I was stressed. And then Anna actually came back. And I'm not exaggerating here. From day one, it was fun. So from day one, it was again I could remember again why I wanted to do a leadership position. I could think again what were the things that I wanted to achieve for this group, for all the persons involved, because there was now a second person with whom I could reflect all the tasks, a second head who could work on ideas and have this in mind and plan actually something together. So this was very first learning was on this very first day. And from that on, it was still my biggest learning, is that happy leaders are better leaders. We could focus again on the urgent as well as on the important topics. We did better decisions and faster decisions even. So we even were more effectively in deciding on topics, especially those where people are involved, because it didn't rotate so long in one's head. So before that, I had topics like changing a team or getting another person in or out, so long in my head before I could actually phrase it. And then it could be solved in very short time, maybe one meeting. For myself, I found more calm. I didn't have all these things constantly in my mind. So there was actually time, and leadership benefits so much from having time of just the things that are happening right now, but also for those things where you can say, okay, and out of this or out of feedback, you could actually now have time to listen to. You can develop things also for the future. We developed in this time quite new products. We introduced, as I wanted before, Agile development and an Agile mindset successfully. And in short, we were both more engaged, more effective, and much more accessible for the team members, which led to a higher satisfaction within our group. So these are a bit the essentials of how we did it, what it was needed for us. So I said before, there are individual models, and for me, I really like the picture because it shows, for me, those balls symbolize all the things you have to deal with as a manager for a big group, for different teams where different products are involved, a lot of stakeholders are involved. So you always have the fear that something is dropping, something you don't pay attention to, and something is falling down. So that's why for me, sharing this leadership position was a way of integrating two individual persons with both their strengths, to, from different angles, juggle those balls together. So this is our model. As I said, we are working in a very large company, very techy in software development. Group is very diverse, and we had the restrictions that we both had almost the same working hours. So we both had small children who needed to be picked up at kindergarten at the same time. And so it was, for us, the only way was that we both work on the same time in the office. So we quite soon came to that we don't want to split the group. So we don't want to split certain responsibilities or split certain teams, but rather share everything, share the whole responsibility, and only divide on tasks within. And so we also didn't want the model that Anna is here on Monday, Stephanie is here on Tuesday, etc., because it just didn't work for us in our setup. Could be that I know from other people, for instance, in controlling, that this is that for them it was very convenient that one is just there at a certain day and they have a common inbox, and that they are maybe have even a one common avatar, and they are basically the same person. For us, this was not an option, because for us, we said we are individuals and we both bring individual strengths into the organization, which are also where the organization even benefits from. So Anna was had so much knowledge on process and quality, and she's very, very straightforward. I'm more the fuzzy thing flipping around. I came from with an innovation background. I said before, I did the GMP, so I saw very multiple things. So I was more I was the strong generalist before. So putting all these things sort of together and glue them. And so we wanted to use those strengths also. So we said we don't want to limit ourselves by being integrated in, I don't know, an artificial person, but also to use this to address maybe certain stakeholders with the respective strengths. For instance, Anna could talk to the point with people from like our processes or internal tools, and she could pinpoint where the actual problem is in a second. Whereas I was good with certain stakeholders where I had a good relationship with, for instance. So we actively used our strengths and we're very much aware of this. To be able to do this, we had to be very open and trustful, because you have to be very reflective on what your strengths actually are and also what your weaknesses are. I admitted from the beginning that there are a lot of things that I don't know as much as Anna, or I'm not as good as she is, or I did it differently. But these things we communicated very openly, as well as also some private topics sometimes if they affected our personal capabilities or personal availabilities for the job. Attitude before style, I really like this. It was so easy for us to get into this. I said day one we were able to work and it was fun again. The reason behind this was that we had a very similar view on what leadership is about. So about this serving leadership culture of being here for the people and bringing their needs forward. We had here a very similar attitude. I'm honest with you, with a different person, it might have not been working out that way. So attitude was important, but style is not. You don't see her now, but we're really completely opposite in the style and also in the style of our leadership. How we talk to people, how we do things, how we plan things, completely different. And it's okay, because there is not one right of doing things, especially not in leadership. I learned so much. This is actually the next point, but I learned so much from her, and together we also learned so much on what our practices that actually work and stick the best. That I was surprised in the end. I didn't really. It was the best training I ever got, I have to say, because to see somebody one-on-one how he does the same, he solves the same solution, challenged me every day. And we shared successes, but also failures. That's what I also mean with ego-free zone. It wouldn't have worked if somebody goes, yeah, okay, and we made this, and this is my achievement. Everything is super because I'm such a good manager. No, but we are also the ones who, if something goes wrong, we did it wrong as a couple, as a team. Mutual respect and appreciation. I think you heard this now from what I'm saying. This is, underlying essential, that whatever the other person can put into the work needs to be respected and appreciated. And without judgment. You're probably now interested in the way how we made this work for us in every day. That's why I brought you here a little overview on some tools that we were using. To be honest, it's not a common model. Also not in our very big company with 400,000 employees. We maybe found one or two people, couples, who actually did this before. And one major thing was our tools didn't work at all for this. It's in our tools, we're all working that, okay, you only have one responsible for one thing and maybe a substitute. So we had to overcome this, but eventually we did, because we did everything. We used the tools that we have. Maybe in the background there was a different structure, but we covered it in a way that we could go in front of our group, but also in front of our stakeholders and to upper management as a united team. So we made this work. And what we used internally is we had Teamboard and OneNote, you can see here, where we arranged our working together. I have to say our advantage was, so this is also maybe unique here, that we both already had the same responsibility alone before. So we knew about what our responsibilities in this role are. We knew the products, projects, and the overall organization already. So if you don't have this, there might have been some ramp-up phase probably. But we decided we need one clear communication line to the level above and to the level below us, so in a regular meeting. So that means these meetings we did together. But those were the only ones that we did together. Everything else, all the tasks, all the meetings, the responsibility for direct reports or projects or stakeholders, this we divided. And that's what we did here in this team board, where we divided this, but we divided this on whenever it was needed. So we also adapted this if it was needed. And there are things that are needed constantly, which we maybe changed over half a year or a year. And there are things that only come up maybe once. And then we just say, okay, do you do this or do I do this? And so on. So in order to help us navigate through this, we kept a diary. This is something I can really recommend, not just in our situation, because I keep from that I like the habit of keeping all the notes, everything that you do in comprehensive format available all the time. Because what we did is that we documented just the key points of every meeting so that the other person would understand it. We also documented decision everyone would take, because we didn't synchronize on every single decision. This was just not very effective, but we documented this if needed, and also noted open to-dos or just to-do things that we did in this diary. So then we said, in the beginning, we said, okay, how do we then arrange this, that we can agree on who is doing what? So we started with regular sync meetings every day. So every day we had half an hour to synchronize on the topics. This completely reduced over time. Now we hardly do them anymore because they're not so much needed anymore, because of this habit of collaboration that we established. So we know already how the other person will be working or is working, and we have all the important things documented, and which can be found quite easily. So these regular sync meetings are still there, but they got highly reduced. There are probably a lot of questions regarding this, and I'm really happy to go then into this. But I have just one last slide to go into. So I just have some. Now, okay, so it works. And this is regarding the company itself, to also change the view into what are required from a company side, but also the mutual benefits then. And to be honest, there is no ideal and standardized framework in which job sharing works, or in which getting into a leadership position also how this works. So there are some conditions that support it. So a very aware company and leadership culture with the high awareness on the topic and respective decisions helps. But it's also not essential, because it's more about using the right opportunities that come up. The flexibility in capacity planning, or at least a little flexibility in capacity planning, might be needed. So you can also phrase this as a creativity of you, a leader. because this is actually the question that we get the most. Yeah, but how does this work? Because the planning in FTE, so full-time equivalent employees, is fixed, so we cannot change this. It's hardly the case that two people working in a job share both work a half time, so like really 50%. So that would add up then to 100%. It's more likely that you have maybe two persons who have both 60%. In our case, it was 30 hours and 25 hours, so more than a full-time equivalent. But there is, if you have the creativity or flexibility to think of what other benefits you have for the organization, which also would accommodate for a specific person who deals with it, then it would be a realistic calculation. So, for instance, to give you some insights, we'd had this shared leadership, but since we were persons with different strengths in the organization, so Anna was the one person to go to if somebody had tool issues. I was the one person to go to with innovation topics. I even had my own innovation program aside. So if you would think of, normally we accounted for maybe 2, if not 3 full-time equivalents, but we only ask for 1.2. So to see this needs a respective mindset, but this is actually the most challenging questions that we faced so far. That's why we also have to talk about disadvantages more. So in overall, it's about using the opportunity. Sometimes you might have the effect or the situation that somebody is really has the courage to design an organization that allows this from the scratch, and you are there and can take up something like this. Or that they already write out positions as being also available in a job sharing tandem. But this is hardly ever the case. But it could be also that there are some needs in the organization that the management has difficulties to address to. So, for instance, they cannot find somebody who would take up this very stressful position of being a manager there. Then it can be also the other way around to say, okay, yeah, but I have a solution for this because it's not just me, we are a tandem and together we could solve this. So there's not one right way of doing this or getting this set up, but it needs to have here these insights on the organizations and this flexibility to react to the circumstances. If you manage, the advantages are high. I hope we can communicate this even more to the world and to other companies that I saw it on first hand, and that the potentials in the area, the high potentials, we said high qualified women, for instance, who need to work part-time for whatever reasons, can be engaged, their skill sets can be engaged in a leadership position if just being a little bit creative on how to do this. Thereby also this skilled labor shortage that we are facing is addressed or can be addressed. Just have to be smart and creative. One thing that we had is in our department due to this is we're a very stable and reliable organization. It was never the case that there was no group leader not available for more than maybe 1 or 2 days. So it could be, it was once the time that I was in Vietnam on a business trip and Anna had maybe was sick for 1 or 2 days, but that was most of it. So there was already somebody who could answer to all the stakeholders that are involved. I already mentioned employee satisfaction. We measured this actually continuously in our group, and this highly increased. So we were more available to them. We were also better role models to them because we were more happy, and it was more fun to work with us. And this also played back to the whole group. It was very interesting to see. I even say there is a very, very high scaling potential on not just this specific tool, but on the way of working like this, on the way, like the way how we used what we were using in documenting all our decisions, etc. This could scale to higher levels or larger responsibilities. So the sky's the limit. Yes, that's actually everything as well. I want to give as an input from my side. I worked in this mode now for almost 2 years. I also was on a baby break in between, and we made it work. And we even engaged other people in our model. So this would be then the even advanced talk if I get invited again. But I'm very, very happy that you invited me here and that I could give some impulses, but I'm also now thrilled to answer some of the questions. Thank you very much.
Hey, Stephanie, it was really amazing to hear about this experience. And I have to admit, it's not something that is that common. It doesn't really also look to be easy to handle. So my understanding is that there is a lot about designing alliance between you and your partner. So there is a lot of flexibility. Teams do not function the same way. I mean, other top sharing couples, they might have decided something else for themselves. Am I right to think so?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have to be aware there are different models. So there's job sharing, but there's also job splitting, where we really point out, okay, this is my area of responsibility, and this is yours, and we don't touch.
Mm-hmm.
This is, for instance, even how my husband worked in a startup like this. They were 2 co-founders, but they really designed their responsibilities very, very narrow. It works. It's a different model, for me, the scaling effect or this effect on what it does with the organization is in this shared tool much higher, because the method, everything behind it, the mindset behind it, the way of working behind it, this can scale to other people involved in the organization.
Yeah, there are lots of, seems that this model, I mean, you call it tool. Can we call top sharing a tool? This is also one of the questions that I see in the chat. Can we call it a tool, or is it something else? How do you refer to it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I call it a tool because for me, it's a tool, something that makes things, helps me to make things work.
Okay.
I wanted to take up responsibility in the organization, and that tool helped me to be effective and good in it to doing so. I also did it before and being part-time, but I felt I wasn't good at it. So that's why I refer to it as a tool, but this is maybe my definition.
Okay, and since it is available not only for the engineering teams, but it's also, you mentioned controlling, as long as I remember during the presentation, so it's available across the organization, right?
The question is what you mean with available, because it's never really, hardly
that's a good, well, maybe you can clarify about it. Is it something that is available, or is it something that someone can go and ask for it? How does it work?
Yes, I think I can very answer to this very good, because we are such a large organization, and although in Vienna or in Austria we are smaller and we might more contained and we're more working closely with HR, I even get the discussions on the German side, and there was so much movement now that certain areas now even put their positions out, so in our internal tool, where it says, okay, possible also in a tandem, in a job sharing tandem. On the title, very much, very, very visible. So to even open up this discussion, but this is rare, and also with us, this is new. The most cases that I know of people who did it, it was that the challenge was to forming up in a team. Even Anna and me, we didn't know each other. To form up in a team, to find here somebody you can think, okay, who is matching or who is taking the other side to be a full of the best leader you can imagine, and then going forward with that proposal. So I hardly have, I don't know of any case where this situation was proposed to a department head and as an application, and it got rejected. So in many positions, and with a couple applied, they won because they could accommodate for different aspects in leading. So they were more, a more full, a leader with more sides on it, with more facets. And so I never know somebody who was turned down when applied on something as a couple.
Amazing.
But the difficulty lies in finding the other one. So we have internally like a channel, a Teams channel, where people who are interested in can go into and maybe find somebody who might share with them one position if they're interested in. This started with a couple of people, but now it's quite a big channel.
Yeah. Is this tool also available to men? Do you happen to know of mixed top sharing couples?
It is.
Okay.
It is. Part-time also gets increasingly a topic for men. It's, to be honest, it started more from the case that women had more the issue that they needed some solution to get there, but it's taken up now by men as well. So we have some couples where there is one female and one man in a team, but I don't know of a couple where there are two males, two men involved.
Men don't share? Okay, question in the chat. What are some of the good soft skills you should bring with you in order to be able to top share?
Sorry, can you repeat?
What are some good, okay, you can see it now.
Self-reflection, I think, is the start. Because only if you know what you want, how you see yourself, how you see maybe leadership yourself, what are your strengths, and also what are your weaknesses, this is the best start that you can do. Recently, a colleague asked me if they already have a tandem, if they know of some trainings, what can you do to learn this, how to do this? And we didn't find one. There is not one in the whole 400,000 people organization. There's not one training you can do. But one thing that really helps is to make a test on like your personality or your specific self-reflection training to know what are your values and do they align.
Do you also share your experience with potential colleagues interested in top sharing?
You mean here or in
you? No, I mean you at Bosch. I mean, because you are now known as a person who kind of successfully top shares with a colleague of yours. Are you asked by someone, or do you go proactively to share your story with your colleagues just to help them either motivate them or just answer some questions to those potentially interested in this tool?
Yeah, so in Austria we got quite some stage on this topic. Were asked by quite some people. So yes, this is the case. On the more global level, I think this has to evolve. We have a directive from very, very top that it's possible to plan for a position with more than one FTA. So this is already there since, I don't know, 5-6 years, but it wasn't really filled with life until recently that people came up, were creative and said, okay, let's tandem up and do this together.
Okay. Another question that I see is, what are the cons of the attempt at top sharing? I can imagine both leads need to be kind of on the same page to function as a whole. Mm-hmm. We'll move the question again so that you can see it easily.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is a multiple level. I said one thing that's a requirement is attitude before style. So both leads have to be on the same page when it comes to what do you think of what is good leadership. But how do you imagine a good leader? Not in the way what it actually does, like in every day, but what he aspires for his team on a global level, how available he wants to be for a group, etc. So if this really core values, if those match, then it's easy. If they don't match, like for instance, I have also in our organizations people. I don't want to put now them in a framework, but they are maybe those ones who are more than 45 years old, have done this the same way all their lives, were successful that way in being like a more, let's say, old school leader. I would have difficulties maybe to tandem up with them, so that would not work. But this you can feel from the start.
Yeah, maybe they will also not be willing to.
Yeah. And the cons in attempt of top sharing, I don't see a cons because there's always a learning. So there's always that you learn something about yourself and another person and about leadership.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, when it comes to your employees, do you happen to realize that they have preferences to one or the other of you too, like both you and Tana? Like,
As a
I
mother, I
mean, we
know
work
it very
with
well.
people and
Yeah, it's the same thing like with children. They know, okay, if mama says no, then I go to papa, or the other way around. And also on the specific topics, they know who is more, who is more reluctant to give me something or who is more, yeah. So the same thing is there. And it wasn't, in the beginning, it was a lot, but it was there. I'd say, okay, yeah, Anna didn't allow me the training, but I go to Stephanie and maybe she will. We were so much aligned that this was hardly an issue. So it was,
okay.
in the beginning, we synced so much also on small topics that this came up. But then over time, since we don't think now so much anymore, we know, because we also know who the people are themselves and we know how they ask. It's the same way, when you ask then your child, okay, yeah, but what did Papa say? Okay,
Yeah,
well,
nice metaphor and nice learning actually from private life that is implemented in your
yeah.
professional life. Good. I'm really thankful for the topic and for the sharing. It's really something that is important, and I hear you, and I am really confident that we should speak more about it because seems to be an opportunity, especially for women, but maybe also for men, for people who would like to accommodate something else in their lives. Before I say goodbye to you, anything that you would like to say to our audience, any learning or any tip or anything related to not necessarily to top sharing, but any experience that you would like to share with them.
Yeah, okay. Sometimes you are, especially if you're working in a company or in an organization, you might see some barriers or some limits that somebody points out to you. It's okay to challenge them, but do it smart. Do it in a way that think of, okay, why are they in place? What does my boss or the one above or management, whatever, actually need out of this? And how can I accommodate with my skill set, with my own aspiration for the future, for my career? And how do we bring this both sides into together? Because this is how that it works. This is how success looks like. To not just say, okay, yeah, I have my plan and I go like this, and if the organization doesn't support it, then I go because they are stupid. But to really understand what are the pains there, and together with your own goals, put this together and find that your own path to success.
So this was Stephanie from Bosch. Thank you, Stephanie. Amazing, and really, really grateful for this new learning for the majority of our audience. Hope to see you soon again on the same topic with a lot of questions. You can stay with us. There might be some other questions also in Swapcard. You can answer there, and I would encourage also again our audience to connect with you on LinkedIn so that they can learn more about it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Have a lovely day, and we continue with like 2 minutes break and our next guest. Okay, no break for me. Hello, Tina. Hello, no, that's fine. We can do it without the break. I thought I will have something, but no. Okay, but I'm very, very happy to have it, Tina. Lovely. So you're in London now, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, good. So how are you today? Are you ready to address our audience?
Yeah, I'm very excited. And first of all, happy International Women's Day. It's amazing that we're hosting this special track for women all across, and it's great to see the energy.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me that I never say these words since this morning. Happy International Women's Day. So Tina is a senior lead software engineer. She's in London. She's certified Azure Solutions Architect and builds scalable cloud-native event-driven architectures. So in your current role, Tina, you enable various teams as they migrate or they modernize their applications on Azure, but you also actively engaged in exploring potential applications of quantum computing in finance. You also mentor young people, young minds, women in tech. Is there anything else that our audience should know about you?
Oh, no, I think you captured it amazingly. Yeah, so thank you for a great introduction.
Thank you. What have you prepared for us? Can you quickly just let us know what we are going to learn from you today?
Yeah, so today I want to talk about different strategies that we women can use at our workplace to amplify our impact, to amplify, build our reputation at the workplace. So all the experiences and lessons hard learned, those kind of things is something that I'm expecting to share with the audience here today.
Tips and tricks from the source.
Absolutely.
The stage is yours.
Cool. Thank you. And yeah, thanks everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending whichever geography you're joining us from. And like I said, I'm very excited to be here for the session on strategies for women to amplify their impact at the workplace. My introduction has already been done, so I'll not repeat that. But I would like to start our today's session by this quote by Gloria felt that none of us are as powerful as all of us. And that's why we're all here today to tap our collective power as women in the workplace, to learn from each other, challenges faced, and the hard won lessons. And my goal today for every one of you today is to walk away with practical tips that you can immediately put into action in order to amplify your impact. Because, when we use our voices, showcase our skills, and unite to lift each other higher, there is no limit that we cannot achieve. So, with that, let's get started. So, some stats to start our talk with. I assume you have an idea, and this is not a surprising fact, that women, they do make up less than 30% of the tech force. But what's important for you to know is that even though we have a small representation, yet our perspectives and talents are essential for building inclusive products and diverse teams. And what I mean by that is that the teams, they need us as much as we need them. Now, imagine how you would feel if you are in a vast tech landscape and it feels like your voice is echoing in the distance, but you're still struggling to be heard over the noise. Or let me ask you this question. Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of brilliant minds? Maybe you have found yourself holding back in meetings, hesitant to speak up, even when you know you have important points to make. And believe me, I have been there many times. And it is an all too common experience for us as women, especially where we are underrepresented in tech industry. We get talked over, we get overlooked for stretch opportunities, and that can make us start to feel unseen and unheard. And let's play a quick game. I want you all to drop a yes in the comments if you have ever felt overlooked in your tech career. So take a minute. Let me know if you have felt overlooked in your tech career. Exactly. See, I'm seeing yes in the comments, and honestly, I'm not surprised because we all have been there where we have felt that we are not being we are overlooked. So the question that comes is, or the question that we need to ask ourselves is, how can we turn it around? And from my experience so far, I have felt that personal branding is that missing link to ensure that our efforts are recognized and valued. And that's what we'll talk in today's session. So, with that, let's take a quick look at the agenda. We will try and see why personal brand at workplace is needed and what is personal brand, how can we build personal brand at work, and when should be the right time to start investing in building our brand. So let's jump into the why. So for that, the question that comes is, why do you think personal brand matters, especially for women in tech? And for that, let me tell you my story, why and how I realized that I needed to invest in myself and build a brand at my workplace. So in my career, I've always been an ambitious, career conscious woman in tech. And I normally try to give my best to anything that I take up at work. And I usually see results too. And that used to be my parameter, my yardstick for my career growth. So one day in my one of my previous workplaces, a senior executive, he casually mentioned a project that I had contributed largely to, but he failed to recall my name. And it was at that time that it hit me that my efforts weren't really translating into recognition and were not converting into new opportunities for me. And that was the moment that it hit me, that I need to change this. And that's when I decided to invest time in my personal branding. But that was about me. And like me, what I've seen is that there are many other women who enter the tech with passion, ideas, a lot of potential, but without proper visibility and influence, they often feel lost, and thus they struggle to make an impact at the workplace. No doubt, it is time for us to take control. And how would personal brand help us in taking that control? So, first and foremost, developing your personal brand can actually put you on the fast track to exciting career opportunities. Okay. It can attract a sponsor. Now, you must have heard about, differences between mentors, sponsors, and coach. So I won't go into details there, but I would encourage you to read it up if you aren't aware. And one thing that I would like to highlight is that, do you know why having a sponsor is important for your career growth? And for that, again, let me tell you by telling my story that how having a sponsor helped me in my career growth. So, roughly 5 to 6 years back, I was working on a legacy .NET stack. And when a new team was being formed in my organization to help a bank digitally transform, my workplace sponsor, he suggested my name. And there were questions about if I would be immediately able to adapt and deliver because, it required the latest technology stack like microservices, DevOps, building the CI/CD pipelines, and even involved the latest .NET framework at that time, which was .NET Core. So they had hesitations about taking me. And at that time, my sponsor took the responsibility and spoke amongst a lot of other people saying that, hey, if she can perform in the current project, then she can definitely perform in this new project as well. So I'm not saying that if you don't have a personal brand, you won't have sponsors. No, I don't mean that. But what I do want to point out is that having a brand will increase that probability of your workplace advocates sponsoring you for new opportunities. And then another thing that having a personal brand does for you is it builds your reputation. It acts like a validation of work. It it makes you a subject expert in your area of expertise. It helps you showcase your unique skills. And what you can say is it makes you shine beside the crowd. And guess what? It not only just helps you, but it also helps you help others. It helps you to empower others. The lessons that you have learned in reaching here, you will feel that need or that urge to share it with others, to bring other women with you. So it'll ultimately help you to empower others as well. But the problem is that most people do not understand what a personal brand is. And that's why we will enter into this next section, which is what is personal brand. So when you hear of personal brand, you hear different things come into your mind. Influence, strategic, impactful, credibility, authenticity, your presence, storytelling, okay, visibility. But let's go beyond these buzzwords and identify what a personal brand is. So your personal brand, it's a combination of your skill set, competence, and how you're perceived. Think of it as crafting a puzzle, okay? And each piece in your puzzle, it adds to the bigger picture of one's career. You have knowledge, you have skills, you have personality, all of these things, they make up your brand. Now consider your skills as, your foundational pieces, on which your personal brand begins. These are the core competencies which will define your expertise and they'll provide you stability in your career puzzle. Okay. And then you talk about the middle pieces, your stories, your challenges that you faced, the lessons that you learned. Okay. And the rich your experiences are, they will enhance the vibrancy of your professional narrative. And then when you talk about networking, it becomes those connecting pieces, bridging your different aspects. When you interact with different people, the relationships that you build with different people, they link your skills, your experience, and your stories together, reinforcing the authenticity, the coherence of your personal brand. And as you grow, so does your puzzle grows. So it doesn't mean that once your brand is made, you have made your crafted your puzzle, it will not grow. No. Every time new pieces will emerge with each milestone. And that's what represents the continuous learning and evolution, right? So my recommendation is when you are strategizing your personal brand, think of it as crafting a puzzle. One where every piece contributes to the larger meaningful picture of your career. And it's dynamic, it's ever expanding, it's ever evolving thing, and something that resonates with your authenticity and captures the essence of who you are in your professional landscape. Okay. And don't forget that personal brand, it is that unique story you tell about yourself, defining who you are and what you bring to your table. And let me again tell you a personal story of mine. A mentor of mine at my previous workplace, she once asked me that, Tina, what is your brand? And honestly, I had no answer then, but it gave me so much food for thought. Like I wasn't able to answer her then, but when I came home, and then it took me days, in fact, weeks, to come up with what I think my brand is. And let me just share that with you very briefly, what I consider my brand is. So I think my brand is that I'm an empowering cloud engineer. My skill set is specializing in architecting and building cloud solutions. But at the same time, I also enable others, other teams, other people to make a move to the cloud. Then I also consider myself as a forward-thinking woman in tech who doesn't just implement the latest technologies, but also tries to glimpse the future possibilities of game-changing technologies, something like quantum computing. That's one of my passions. And again, I try and inspire others to explore these uncharted territories. And lastly, a very important part of my brand is that I consider myself as an empathetic mentor. I actively seek to share my knowledge and my experiences to guide others on their journeys. And I can also relate to the struggles that the young minds face in today's world, and I can understand that. So with that, I would like to ask the same question to you. What is your brand? No need to answer now, but do answer this question to yourself. It'll really help you shape what you want to be known for. And with that, let's move to the next section, how to build our brand at work. So for that, I have come up with my own framework. I call it Gauge It, or you can even call it Gauge IT. The first point there is, get a better understanding of how you're perceived. And believe me, it is really important to know how you are perceived, because often what we think about ourselves is different than what we are perceived. Uh, it happened with me especially after this COVID, where you have so many virtual meetings. It's a hybrid world now, quite many times, or when, especially when we are talking to geographically separated teams, we often make use of virtual meetings and online tools to connect with each other. And it so happened with me that I used to attend meetings virtually, and then once a senior executive, I got a chance to meet them face to face in person. And the first point that the senior executive told to me was that, "Oh, Tina, your online presence is not good. You are so different when I meet you in person, but your online presence doesn't reflect who you really are." And that was, again, a light bulb moment for me. I really never considered until then that how we are perceived is can be so different than what we think we are. And it used to happen that when I used to go to the online meetings, uh, I would not switch on my camera. I won't try and share my perspectives unless I thought it was really needed. And though I thought it wasn't really impacting me, but it was changing the way the leadership in those meetings was forming a perception about me, that she doesn't share her perspectives. She doesn't have a great online presence. Okay, so that's why my recommendation, my top tip to you would be, get a better understanding of how you're perceived, and then analyze, like introspect on the feedback that you get in comparison with your self-image. Like when I introspected, I did agree with the feedback that I was given, that in person, I'm much more approachable, or I share my perspectives. I'm much more open. But when it comes to probably virtual meetings, I try to close myself unless I feel, okay, there is a real reason for me to speak. So do that introspection, do that analysis in comparison to what you think of your self-image. And then think about your USP. What is your unique selling point? What should you be known for? So define your unique value proposition. Like for me, I was very sure I wanted people to know about my Azure skills. I wanted to grow in that area. I had passion to work in quantum, so I wanted to get more and more opportunities working towards that. So define what is it that you would want to be known for, and then make goals, make a plan of action which is relevant to your career goals, and then express. Now, this is something that I tell people irrespective whether you want to build a personal brand or not, but do be vocal in sharing your perspective and presenting yourself. The research shows that 55% of what we communicate is via our body language. 7% of it is through words. So I'm not saying words are not important. No, you have to ensure that you are not irrelevant when you are speaking. But the rest 38% is the tone of voice. So if you see the overall numbers, 55% body language, 38% tone of voice, it does matter how you are presenting yourself. It doesn't matter what your body language is. Does it show the confidence, or does it show that you are hesitant? So work on these non-verbal forms of communication and make sure that whenever you are presenting yourself, you are cognizant of these things and you are presenting yourself in accordance. And then, similar like image, consider this non-verbal side of your brand, which I just talked about. And lastly, track. Like, it's very important for us to monitor the progress and refine your approach. Like, remember, building your brand, it's not static. It will evolve over time. So this is going to be an activity that you will keep doing in a repeat mode, and don't just let it become static. Okay, so with that, let's move to some actionable insights that you can take, which will help you to shape your narrative internally. Okay, I'm going to list few points here. Not every point would be applicable to each one of you. You may have your interests. You may find some things which you would like to try, and after trying, you may come back and say, "Oh no, it didn't work for me." But the list that I'm sharing, I believe that each one and every one of you would be able to take something at least of these points that you would be able to tell to yourself, hey, this is something that I can try. Okay, and that's what I would want all of you to do. So the first thing, show, not tell. Now, most often, I think we, as women in tech, we are doing great work at our workplace, but often we don't show them enough. We are just confined to our team, immediate team knowing the work that we are doing. And then it's also left for our managers to kind of spread the achievements that we are doing. But what is it that you can do by yourself, which will show others in your workplace the kind of work that you are doing? And for that, look out for those demos, look out for those internal events in your organization, which will help you showcase your work and skills. Maybe they are monthly, maybe they are quarterly, but find such avenues which help you showcase your work. Okay. Maybe you can look for some internal meetings where you can think of presenting something new that you learned or something new that you worked upon. You can tell people the technical insights of it or the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those challenges. And if you feel that you're not in that place where you can present, then why not try by hosting? Remember, all of these things will make people see the different sides of you. Like, even when you host, the other person can see that, okay, yeah, this woman or this girl or this she's great at presenting things. So all the things that you do, they do communicate about you to the others, and don't lose such opportunities. Maybe there is some women in tech events, maybe there are some internal conferences. See if you can drive them, see if you can organize them. Okay. And another point that I would like to say is that take on that challenge. Like look for something that is outside your work area. Like work is something that is always given to us, right? When we work in our team, we take on certain tasks that are given to us, but take on that extra thing, take on that challenge. Maybe volunteer to get a proof of concept done for a new vendor. Maybe your organization is looking for some security analysis tools. So see if you can pitch in yourself, volunteer yourself to do a POC. Or maybe your organization is onboarding a new service, a new tool, and you can always just volunteer to experiment with the onboarding of that new service. So try and do beyond what is expected from you. Okay. The more you will do those things, the more people will get the feeling that you are not a person who is just oh, I'm doing my work kind of a person, but you're also interested in exploring things outside your comfort zone. And that sometimes does help in getting more opportunities for you. Okay. But having said that, I also do want to emphasize that do it maintaining your work-life balance. Don't take a hit on your work-life balance because, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. So always always bite that much that you can chew. So take in the required amount of work that you think you can comfortably do. And then another suggestion that I can give is be active in guilds, in different communities. Be active. Like look for, based on your interest, join different communities at work. Sometimes you may see some like-minded people come together and they form a group for security, or maybe AI. AI is so much happening right now, or maybe like quantum. So any such guilds that come up in your organization where a group of like-minded people come together and they discuss the latest things on it, yeah, be active there. You will learn a lot. And again, it's a great place for you to meet a lot of other like-minded individuals. And don't just be on the receptive side of it, also collaborate with community. Quite often it happens that when we are doing something, we come across a common problem which probably even the others in your organization may face, maybe in your tech domain, something that you faced, and you feel that there could be others who would face the same issue. So what you can do, to the least, what you can do is maybe build some documentation and spread it across. Write those answers for some common questions, or maybe take some facilitate sessions for the community. You don't have to like contribute to open source. No, you can always start small, like contributing, collaborating with your community. It doesn't have to be always doing something really big steps, but also small steps can help. And then another thing which would really put you in front of a lot of people is if you help your organization in hiring talent for them. This is something which is really looked up to. It not only enhances your confidence, it not only uplifts your morale, but it also gives a chance for you to show to the others who are potentially interested in coming to your organization what is your organization's culture, right? And these are the things that are really they help shape your narrative. And then if you feel that the opportunities that I talked about, if they are not there in your organization, hey, you can always start from your team, right? You don't it's really good if you can find avenues outside your team to increase your range, to increase your access to different people. But even within the team, there are things that you can do. You can enable and mentor others. And when I say this point, a lot of people come back to me and say, hey, I'm very young, I'm not sure if I can mentor others, I don't have that much of an experience to mentor others. And my advice to those women is that don't go by the years of experience. Maybe, yes, you have less number of years of experience and a particular skill, but maybe you are in that team for, let's say, 6 months or a year, and a newcomer comes in and joins that team. That new person would still require a bit of a hand holding to understand how the team works. And that is where you can volunteer to bring those newcomers up to speed. So it can be anything that you can do. You don't need to have like an expertise in your technical skill set in order to be a mentor or in order to enable others. And even with respect to your own task that you're given, I always recommend people or women to take complete ownership of the task. Don't go with this mindset that somebody is going to explain the task to me, I'm just going to implement it, and my work is done. No, try and take the end-to-end ownership of the task. Try and understand from the requirements perspective, if you understand it correctly, from the implementation perspective, and then don't just stay there. Work towards deployment as well. And maybe it's you who is doing the deployment, maybe it's another team who is doing the deployment. But if it is another team doing the deployment, ensure that you collaborate with them to do the deployments. And then maybe there is a quality check team who is going to be checking your work. So extend your collaboration to them. The more you are seen as the glue that holds your entire task together, you will notice that the leads in your team will come to you to ask for status updates, to ask for how it is going for that particular task. And they will get that confidence in you that you can handle, you are accountable, you take the full ownership of a task. So there are these things that you can do within your team as well. And sometimes few other suggestions that you can do is, maybe when there are times when you don't have too much of a workload, then you can look for certain initiatives within the team. Maybe you can add a documentation for a newcomer, how they will get started with your project, with your team's project. Or maybe you identified that the resources that currently your application is deploying are really costing too much. So you may want to go to your manager and say that, hey, I would like to look into, if I can do any cost optimizations for my application, or maybe a performance optimization. So these are the kind of things that really make you go from that junior engineer to the senior engineer level, and they help shape your narrative internally at your workplace. Okay, and I also tell people that don't just shape your narrative internally. While you are working towards building your brand at your workplace, also shape your narrative externally. And what I mean by that is, blog consistently. Like, again, I'm just a disclaimer before I go deep into it. You may find some points here which you'll be like, oh no, this doesn't work for me, or oh no, I don't have interest in this. Or there may be a few points which will make you feel, oh yeah, I can try this. So go by your gut feeling, pick up something that you feel you might be able to do consistently. Okay, so consistency is the key here. Don't just write one blog and then forget about it for 6 months. No, if you want to pick up blogging, then do that consistently. Share your perspectives through blogging on media, on maybe a medium, or maybe your own website. And don't aim for like too many posts in a month. Just start slow and then build your cadence. See what cadence works for you. See how much time you have apart from your work to do these kind of things. But the point here is, try and establish your voice on your choice of medium. Okay, and then if you feel blogging is not something for you, maybe you can also look at giving conference talks, or maybe you can do both. So nobody is telling you not to do both, but again, go by what you feel goes more naturally with you. Okay, look for local meetups and conferences to speak at. And if you are doubtful about going all in, taking a 1-hour session and speaking on 1 hour for something that is technical or maybe behavioral or something else, start slow. Like maybe just prepare a 5 to 10 minute lightning talk to get started. That will give you a feel about how do you feel comfortable talking in front of people. It'll also enhance your public speaking skills slowly and steadily. But do that. And then another advice, be active on social media. We have X, which is previously known as Twitter. We have LinkedIn. Use these social medias to post regularly, like share maybe your career tips, maybe some tech insights. And if you feel posting is something that scares you to start with, then you can start slow, like start commenting on the different posts that you see. Maybe you see a post and you like something about it and you would like to add your own perspective. So start by that. But the point is that start getting active on social media. Then another point that I would suggest is document your work. Quite many times outside our work, we do some personal projects based on our passion, based on our interest. So do that. Keep a portfolio of your projects and accomplishments. It's always good to have these quantifiable results. They speak a lot about you. They can really enhance your narrative again externally. And then do networking, join online communities, participate in forums, like maybe lean in circles, exchange ideas with peers, find those like-minded people, right? Who have similar beliefs with you, or maybe those who challenge you to look beyond, to think beyond what you currently think. So look for all those communities. And then last but not the least, find a mentor. And I know this is really underrated, but a mentor can actually help you shape your personal brand by providing guidance and connections. So do that. And then I say that, when there is no chair, I bring my own. So a set of actionable insights for people who are seeking leadership opportunities. Like I'll recommend, if you are conscious that yes, you want to seek leadership opportunities and you are talking to your senior executives about it, maybe your manager about it, that you're interested in leadership opportunities, give these ideas that you would be interested to join high visibility teams, maybe volunteer for those special projects which really require you to showcase your skills to senior leadership. That will quantify your impact. Raise your hand, like whenever you find such leadership opportunity, maybe lead a presentation or a new initiative that you need to head up, volunteer enthusiastically. Like if at that time you show your hesitancy, then like even though you may be hesitant inside, even though you may be having 10 questions inside you, I don't feel confident enough, but don't let that show. It's fine, accept it, and then work towards how can you bridge the gap that you think you have within you, which will stop you from performing well in the leadership opportunity that you take. Okay. And again, on similar terms, step outside the comfort zone. Look out for those challenging assignments which will help you develop new skills outside your comfort zone. And honestly, when I took up quantum, like leading the quantum research in my previous organization, I knew it won't be an easy thing for me. I would have to learn how to write quantum algorithms, how to explore the different applications of quantum in finance. But again, take that challenging assignment. Get to know your senior leaders. This is something that I have benefited a lot from. So when you set up those one-to-one meetings with your senior leaders, whether it's in person or virtual, it helps you to know them, for them to know you, to be aligned on the vision, and quite often than not, then they start understanding what are the career paths that you're looking out for, and this really helps. That when a right opportunity comes around the way, it really helps for them to nominate you for that opportunity. So do that. And if you are interested in being a leader, then like be a mentor, right? Expand your connections. Don't just look to expand vertically, also look to pick up others along with you. Build your maybe your employees up along with you. Participate in mentoring programs, participate in networking events, share your expertise, share your lessons. And then again, something which is very underrated, track and communicate your impact. We often do a lot of things, but when that year-end review comes, we have forgotten half of them. And we are always like, women more humble. We don't like to talk about the achievements that we have, but we have to rise above it. We need to make a document of our accomplishments and quantify the value that we provide through proper data. Right? And then we are not right. What we are doing is not bragging, but what we are doing is we are listing the things that we have actually had impact on, and quantifiable things where we have impact on. So do that, maintain a document. Okay. And a very important thing that I would like to say is expand your network with other women. Like I call them as pacing partners. I'll come to pacing partners in a minute, but let's see how you can expand your network. Talk to peers in your office, build relationship with women, like maybe just schedule coffee chats or something, but get to know the other women. Attend these networking events. Build your LinkedIn connections with different women in your industry, maybe, to expand your professional network. Find women mentors. They really have gone through the same road, so they would be able to really understand very well. and give you the suggestions and guidance as well. And I'm not saying male mentors will not do that, but women mentors are also really helpful. And then attend conferences, to again like meet like-minded women in your field. Okay, but coming back to pacing partners, like pacing partners are like could be any colleague that you collaborate with and who will stimulate that best performance out of you. Your pacing partner can be a friendly competitor, can be a challenger, a mentor, a sponsor, or even a role model. And to explain how a pacing partner can advance your career, I want to speak about this excerpt that I read in Sheryl Sandberg's A Lean book, and I would recommend all of you to also read it. But this is something that I really found very impactful. A small story that in 2004, four female executives at Merrill Lynch, they started having lunch together once a month. They shared their accomplishments and frustrations. They brainstormed about business. And after the lunches, they would all go back to their own teams' offices and tout one another's achievements. They couldn't brag about themselves, but they could easily do it for their colleagues. Their careers flourished, and each one rose up to the ranks to reach managing director and executive officer levels. So, see, this tells, right, that alone you can't really, like, you can make use of the women impact, the collective women power, and grow in your career. With that, we come to the last section, which is when do you think we should start investing time in building a personal brand at workplace? And for me, this graphic by Liz Fosselin, it sums up really well that there is no better time to start building your brand than today. The progress that you will make by starting today compared to the progress you will make when you start, when you feel you are ready, you can see the difference. So do not wait to be ready in your mind to start building your personal brand. Start now, start today. Maybe start with baby steps, but do start. And with that, we come to an end of our session today. But before we close, a final reminder that your personal brand is a powerful tool for rising above challenges in the tech industry. So today, I encourage each one of you to take a step forward, no matter how small, but towards towards shaping your narrative. And don't forget to take others with you on this journey. Like your story, your brand can change the narrative for other women in tech. So let's not just rise up in our careers, let's elevate each other. And with that, I am going to open it for questions, if any.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for the presentation. Really lovely learning and a lot of personal experience. I personally liked a lot the collective women power that you shared at the end with this slide with the Merrill Lynch executives. I think it can be a good tip for people who are a little bit more introvert or shy to kind of take it further and start talking about themselves via other people's stories. Before I kick off with the questions, there is a comment in the section that I want to share with you, and it's like a compliment to you. You are a great mentor, Tina. Excellent session on women empowerment. On the International Women's Day, you never fail to make us feel proud. It's really a lovely one. I just wanted to share it with you. And and I'll start with one question that is not in the chat section, but I thought it might be really interesting for our audience to know. How do you actually find a sponsor? It was a nice tip, but maybe it will be useful for our audience to know how to approach this.
Yes, and a very, very, very valid question. I can start by talking how I approach finding a sponsor.
That would be great. Yeah. What were the qualities that you were looking into your sponsor, and how did you find him or her?
Before I move into sponsor, maybe a line that I would like to add is difference between a mentor and a sponsor. And I think that difference can help us decide who are we looking for in a particular stage of our career growth. and how can we look for, right? So when we talk about mentors, they teach us, they help us understand ourselves, they help us build our skills. But the sponsors, on the other hand, they are the ones who are getting us those opportunities to us. So for me, when I realize that I'm not getting the visibility that I need, uh, a mentor can guide me about how can I be more visible, or how can I build my reputation at work. But what a sponsor would do for me is they would open that door for me. They would get me a seat at that table where there's apparently no seat for me. And what a sponsor can go to the level is that they sometimes even give up their own seat so that uh, they can get you inside that room. Okay,
So
so
the
first of all,
person who brings the chair for you.
absolutely, the person who
Okay.
brings the chair for you, and sometimes even leaves his own chair, his or her own chair, so that you get a seat at the table. So it's very important to find the right sponsor. Okay, and some of the things that have worked for me in identifying a right sponsor is one who has that influence, who has that power and authority. So, for example, like if I give my personal example, uh, I, I talked to my when I was starting my journey in my last organization, I had this thing that I wanted to get into cloud. Okay, at that time I wasn't really clear. I want to be Azure, I want to be AWS. I just knew I want to get into cloud, and I spoke to my manager about it. And mostly, uh, your workplace managers are your first sponsors, because they are the ones who are more aware of the opportunities that are outside your team. And if you are aligned with workplace manager, and if the workplace manager understands your goal, what you want to be, then quite often than not, they are the ones who give you the right opportunities. So my advice to everybody in this room is, if you're looking for a sponsor, the best sponsor for you is your manager, or maybe a skip level manager, um, who you can talk about your aspirations, who you can share what you want to be. So I did that with my skip level manager, and he listened to me very patiently, and he understood that, okay, in 3 years time I want to become an SME in cloud, and that's it. But then what my workplace manager did was, when that opportunity arose, uh, like he talked to his manager, like a CIO of my organization, that hey, there is this person who has interest in coming to cloud. Maybe she would be a good addition to our cloud working group that we are starting off. So that's one example how your workplace manager can act as a sponsor. But then, um, other than that, I think what I will also suggest is, don't just stop at talking to your managers and expecting them to open doors for you. Start connecting with senior leaders in your team, in your organization. Start understanding them. Like, don't connect with them because you want something from them, but connect with them because you want to understand their vision. What are their thoughts about the organization, how they see the tech uh, vertical of your organization growing. So start having that connect with the senior leaders. You will realize slowly and steadily that they are also, it's a two-way street. They also try to understand more about you. They get to know more about you, and it's very surprising that they start understanding what are the things that we are looking for, and we start understanding their vision and alignment. So it works like a win-win situation, and you will notice that they sometimes that converts into your sponsorship as well. And
Okay.
then the
Talk to
other suggestion,
people.
yeah, like other suggestions is like, be visible, right? I talked about doing demos in your organization. You are just broadcasting your skills, you're showcasing your skills, and there are those sponsors who are in the same rooms, who are seeing you talk, who are seeing you present, who are seeing you showcase your skill. So they become your sponsors automatically whenever a right opportunity comes. So keep doing your work. but ensure that you are showing your work, you're showcasing your skills, and you might find some sponsors and some sponsors might find you.
Okay, so there is an organic way also to find sponsors by being visible to the right people.
Yes.
Have you personally been a sponsor to someone yet, or do you consider this, or does it come to you sometimes that you speak about someone in a room full of leaders looking for the next generation leaders?
Yes, I have done that in my one of my previous organizations where I was a manager and I was leading a group of people. So I have been a workplace advocate for the employees who are under me, who are working with me. But more than that, I think I enjoy being a mentor. So if you talk about my capability, I'm more interested in mentoring people, in building the young minds, especially women in tech, about how they can amplify their impact. Like pretty much similar to our session today, I want our women in tech to rise up and shine, right? Like I would want the whole world to know about them, not just their team, not just their organization, but literally the whole world. And yeah, sky is the limit. So I focus more on that.
Beautifully said, Tina. Thank you for this. One last question that I would like to ask you. What motivates you to continue growing and advancing in your tech career?
Okay. Yeah, very nice question. I think for me, it is that grit towards continuous learning. Like I kind of feel bored if I am in one place for long. Like not like in an organization, but I want to continuously do different things. I want to explore new uncharted territories, right? Something that makes me step out of my comfort zone. And somehow I believe it's that continuous learning mindset that works for me. It motivates me. It always keeps me on my toes to learn new things. Like right now, AI is so happening. How can you merge AI and quantum together? You know, what would be the impact if when you're building your quantum computer, or the algorithms that you're writing in quantum also make use of AI technologies. So I'm always kind of like thinking ahead, thinking forward. And I think it's that learning inquisitiveness that motivates me to continue growing and advance in my tech career.
Thank you, Tina,
Like,
for being with
stay
us.
hungry, English, right?
Stay hungry, yes. Thank you for being with us. I'm really happy to close this session with you. And also, you are my last guest for today. But this doesn't mean that Women in Tech is over. There is a parallel track running with our master moderator, Benny. So just make sure that you join it. Benny is going to be the person who will introduce the winners of the raffle. I just want to remind you that we are raffling out 2 tickets for the Power Female Art Festival between 8th and 10th of March in Berlin. If you want to go to join the festival, just go to WeAreDevelopers.com, scroll down, join the raffle, and winners will be announced at the end of the day. Don't also forget to block July 17th, 19th in your calendars. We are looking forward to seeing you at the World Congress in Berlin. We expect more than 10,000 developers there. And I would like also to thank you, our amazing sponsors and partners. With this, and also to our audience. And with this, I'm saying you goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have you found your dream job as a developer? Or are you stuck in an unfulfilling job? On WeAreDevelopers.com, you find over 1,000 jobs in Europe that fit the tech stack that you want to work with, and salaries go up to $130K. All you have to do is create a free profile, and you automatically get matched with jobs that fit your requirements. So what are you waiting for? Create your free profile and let companies apply to you now.